Alrighty, folks. All right, folks. Here we go. All right, I'm having a great little. Oh, God damn it!
Follow from. 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 Don't follow from.
All right, thank you, Billy Corgan, riding a roller coaster. Oh man, oh wow, I am really excited. Mark Sargent, the man that changed my life forever. How are you?
I am good, and thank you, by the way, for in that intro using the throwback soundbite from "Don't Want No Short Dick
Yeah,
Man."
yeah. Don't
Love that
don't want. Yeah.
by Gillette.
Gillette,
That is a
yeah.
huge throwback.
Oh man, yeah. In middle school, I remember all the girls were singing it, and I was like, "Oh, really? It matters? Oh no!"
Oh yeah, she was big at MTV's Beach Party, like multiple years in a row. It was awesome.
And I remember I thought it was Gillette, and then I also heard like Five Fingers something was that did it. I don't know. Yeah, but
Well,
it's a good jam.
I don't know. I think she did it first, but I could be wrong. It's the first time I ever heard
Yeah,
it.
a lot of people probably cover it. It's coming back for sure. I'm glad you caught that.
I don't know. Don't know.
And Alex Laurie, it's good to have you as well.
What's up, guys? Good to see ya.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
So this was kind of last minute, and when Alex hit me up and said, "Hey, what do we say we do this?" And I'm like, "I would love to." And I, it was yesterday, so at first I'm like, "Oh, I gotta prepare. I gotta have these questions." And I'm like, "That's not really necessary. It'll come pretty natural." I just wanted to ask a couple questions and just kind of like
a couple questions.
Just a couple questions.
That is a straight up lie. go ahead. Let's just get into it.
I didn't realize I'd have this privilege.
You've got a ton. Oh, it's not a privilege.
I was at 2019, and I remember I talked to you for like 5 minutes. You signed your book, or you gave me a book. It was already signed, but we talked for like a minute, and I was like, okay, which questions am I going to ask you? And so I don't even remember which one it was, but
for Dallas?
Yeah, when I was in Dallas. Yeah. That was the first conference I went to. And
I love Dallas. That was so much fun.
Oh, that was that was pre-COVID times. That
was, 2019 was a great year. Absolutely a great year for
everything was going so well.
We could do no wrong.
It was the brakes on that.
We could do no wrong at all.
We were like, flat Earth is everywhere. There's nothing that's going to stop flat Earth from getting all over the news right now. There's just nothing.
I joked with somebody around that time. It's like, the only way they could shut down flat Earth is if they crippled the entire world simultaneously. But what are the odds of that happening?
We just have to invent a virus and knock us down. I mean,
it's not like they're going to shut down all international borders and no one's going to travel and everyone's going to suspend everything. It's not like that would ever happen.
We used to make
if
that
it
joke.
did, it'd be 2 weeks max.
Yeah,
that's it.
2 weeks,
just
done.
2 weeks.
2 months tops.
2 months. Yeah, I know.
Not 2.5 years. No.
What? That was. I remember before COVID, flat Earth content pretty much stuck to flat Earth content. They didn't really get into world affairs. And I remember when COVID happened, I was listening to Globebusters, and people started, and Strange World. And we're like, we got to talk about this. We're good at deciphering lies. We kind of have to use our brain here and talk about things topical. And I remember the community at the beginning was like, "Oh, but this is where I go to get away and talk about flat Earth." And it was like, yeah, but we know it's flat. What's going on here? But we're kind of getting out of that now. It seems like more people are getting it, and it's nice to kind of go back to flat Earth.
We had to take those 2 years, 2.5, 3 years now, I guess, and we, out of responsibility, especially Mark over at Strange World, we just have to talk about the V word, and this is just what the whole conversation is going to be for the next 2 years, even though we already know it's flat. We're already trying to make this comfortable for everybody else to understand that it's flat. But now we have to tackle this because we're the ones that can actually fucking see what's going on. I'm sorry, I'm just being a little cocky there, but it's we see it, and so we had to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I was so happy that and I know we'll probably talk about why Artemis finally happened. You know, the moon project. It was like, oh, thank God, something we can sink our teeth into.
Now you have material for another
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Now you have material for at least a little bit.
Exactly. Like we're over here trying to be doctors for 2 years. Like,
Yeah.
hey, that's not good. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but I kind of had to. I mean, because a lot of it was for family and friends and
Yeah.
stuff like that, where I was basically, throwing up red flags. It's like, pay attention to what they're asking you to do. And seriously, my channel there was nothing ever wrong. Well, I mean, I had some copyright stuff, but I never had a community guideline strike until the virus thing happened.
yeah.
And
No,
then they
yeah.
hit
All the
me.
channels that were kind of had a channel before COVID have a whole different rule set because I don't know if you're aware of this, like the Why Do We Trust the Liars parody that, I worked on with Jaren and Conspiracy Music Guru.
Yeah.
When I try to upload that, even though like we worked on it on this channel, I can't. They won't let me. It's either medical misinformation or hate speech.
Right.
And I can't get out of that hump. I don't know what to do. And it's like, and I wonder what that is. Like, so like for you guys to have to get that later, but you're already part of the monetary thing. Like you're kind of like grandfathered in. And
well, no, they demonetized me pretty quickly.
Oh, they did.
Oh yeah. Because they started going through my back catalog. I had released. I had been ranting about the virus thing for a year, and then at least a year and a half even, and then they came and hit my channel. And then once they hit the first one, they all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's take a look at some of his previous work. And literally in a 3-day period, I received like 11 guideline strikes, and I honestly thought my channel was gone forever. But whatever reason, somebody had showed mercy on me to where I get videos taken down now, and they just say, it's really weird. It's kind of like they're giving me the kinder, gentler. I don't know if they give this to other people. It's like, well, we know you may not have understood the new rules about medical misinformation, so we're just going to take down the video.
The science is always changing, and it's important that you keep up on this.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but yeah, 2019 was great, and the last few years have sucked. Mostly good because we couldn't get together physically, personally.
Yeah.
The 2020 was supposed to be the big conference in Vegas. Everyone was so geared up for it, and then nothing was happening. If it wasn't for Karen, we wouldn't have had any American really things. I mean, there's some smaller meetups that have been happening now, but woo, took a while.
Yeah. No, I remember going to the Solar Return and like feeling like I was not bad, but I felt awesome being in a bar with no masks and people there. And I posted on my Instagram, I'm like, yeah, this is 2021. This is what, can you believe it? And it was just a year ago. And we're like, and then some of my not like woke friends or, those ones that don't get it, they were like, oh, you're so selfish. And I'm just like, and then like 3 months later, they were all doing the same. But in March of 2021, it was just as bad as like March of 2020.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how fast.
Yeah. And then one day we woke up. We won't dwell on this topic. One day we woke up and literally it was like, the blue and yellow flags. It's like, oh yeah, Ukraine, that's a thing that's happening now. It's like, what about the virus? It's like, no. Ukraine, that's what's happening. It's like,
yeah,
what?
That's old. No more virus.
That's
We're
it.
on Ukraine now.
You're just gonna. That's it. You drop the curtain, and we're moving on to the next thing. Really?
I know.
And
I know. It was such a pathetic next thing compared to we locked you down for 2 years because of the flu. Okay, that's big. Okay. And now it's like, now care about this. Like,
now care about this. And I still, now the Ukraine thing's faded away because, well, we'll get into that later, which is, I said, look, you could burn Ukraine to the ground right now, and probably 8 out of 10 people in this country, you could walk up to and they'd be like, so where is Ukraine again? They would have no idea. Americans still don't know. I go, hint, it borders Russia and the Black Sea.
Right.
That should be all you need to find it. But people are just it's bad. I mean, as much as I like to give Mark Dice crap because he goes on the street and makes people look terrible, you know, because they don't know anything. I mean, he's not the first person to do that. Talk show people have been doing it for years, but it's bad.
Yeah, but he's exposing how dumb. How
much people don't retain after high school. But it is pretty scary that if you're not even, I mean, seriously, if you're under the age of 25, there's so much you just don't know anything.
Yeah,
American history. I don't even know if they're teaching it. From one of the answers I was getting from these kids, it was like, what?
I think it's just all like white people bad.
White people. American history, that's just white privilege, man.
Like,
that's all white people crime.
It's just all these cisgender,
cisgender atrocities.
Should I feel guilty about being cis? I think that's what I am, right? Am I cis? Does anyone understand what?
Let me ask you guys this though. Let me. Okay, now that we're on the
subject, it's not straight anymore. Nobody's straight anymore.
No,
you're cisgender.
Well, okay. Here's a flat Earth question. I'm glad we got to this. Okay. When I first heard the term globers, okay, I wasn't on Team Flat yet, and I thought my first reaction to that was, oh, you mean normal people? Same thing with when I hear cis, you mean normal? And so when I heard globers, it was the same kind of thing. I'm like, that's stupid. You don't need a name for people who just don't subscribe to your crazy cult, is what I looked at in the very beginning. And it didn't take very long for me to be like, oh, of course, I'm going to call them globers because they're fucking idiot globers. And but I had to like go through the transition of becoming a flat earther to see it that way. And I forget that when I heard the term glober, as somebody who hasn't really looked into it,
glober sounds like goober,
and like
so we softened it a little bit with globy.
What's that?
We softened it a little bit with globy, right? We turned it from glober.
Well, yeah, but there's still a lot of people using globetard.
Globetard, that's really hardcore. So we turned globetard to glober.
Andrew Tate uses globetard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like our word, like off camera.
But it's not like we didn't try to soften it a little bit. We softened it in three.
We did. Oh no! I mean, come on. Compared to we hardly attack. When we attack, we're not attacking the people as much. We're attacking the idea. When they attack, they go after the people. They're quite often. They'll attack the individual and the channel, which is
and it's wholly different now than it was back then. Like, so when I saw your video. And it made so much sense, and I started listening and getting into the whole flat Earth thing. What I didn't, the hardest part for me was like, there's no way I'm learning a thing like this big this way. This is how I learn. A guy puts his phone number on. Like, this is how I find this shit out. Like, that was the weirdest part. It wasn't the information. The information was locked tight, like wonderful, obvious, good logic. It was just like, this is weird that I'm learning this way. Like,
dude, I called Mark, literally, I called him from in front of a bar down the street. He answered. He answered the phone. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. This is this is for real.
You'd be amazed, by the way. So here's proof. Like, I've got my phone sitting right here, and it's not ringing. My phone number is not out there, or it is out there everywhere. And it's because trolls don't call, and a lot of people are just scared to call.
Yeah, I get a trolls don't call. Really? You don't get trolls?
No. Trolls. I get maybe one troll call every 3 months, maybe, and that's because they're drunk enough to call. It's really rare. Think about it. I mean, most people don't want to, because caller ID. So you're gonna have to spoof a phone number. They also don't email me, so every once in a while somebody drunk will call up and they'll get a message. It's almost invariably that they'll call while I'm not around my phone, and it'll be like, "Hey, flat Earth, shut up!" Click, dial tone. That's it.
That sounds like Alex. Actually, that was probably Alex doing that.
And it's like that. Or you'll get some kids that'll call. I get more often. I'll get some kids that'll call from a high school. It's like, dude, I dare you to call a number. I totally dare you. Put on speaker. Right? And then you'll hear a kid like, "Yeah, so I want to talk about flat Earth. I'm really interested. I think it's a fascinating." Shut up. Fascinating concept, right? And they'll always give it away because you can hear the giggles in the background. Yeah. And it's like, oh boy. I've even had guys that have borrowed their friend's phone and called for them. And then I'll call back later. It's like, yeah, you called. It's like, what? They have no idea. It's like somebody pranked them.
God, I thought your phone. I thought you probably had to like stop eventually. You know,
No.
like wow.
No. People, I played the odds. Is what I said in the clues. I said most people don't use the actual phone. Most people text, unless
is
you're
true.
over a certain age. And if you're over a certain age, you're going to think twice about calling. I'll get
Yeah.
a lot of double calls, like a double tap, where they'll call the first time. They'll be like, "Holy crap, there's a voicemail," and they don't know what to say, so they'll hang up. And then they'll call back again, and they'll be like thinking about it. And it's like, oh, should I leave a message? Should I leave a message? And most of the time they don't. So I get a lot of those. But
Huh.
no,
Seriously,
my phone number. Can you imagine that? My phone number is a woman would never be able to do this. Which is
No.
why, by the way, if there's any women listening to this, never ever put your personal information out there because guys will call a woman's phone number.
Oh, there's so
But-
many ways you can weaponize.
How
that.
did you
Oh, yeah.
get? How did you get a Comcast email address? Like, how does you? That doesn't even happen. Is that like? part of your
That's
cable bill?
because I was, and I've had that email address since 96.
That's like almost Hotmail level email.
Almost. I mean, look, you know what my email address was before Comcast? It was AOL.
Oh,
that's
I
right.
was an AOL forum consultant. I actually worked for basically nothing. That was back when you had to pay. People don't understand how cheap internet is nowadays. Where back in the day you had to pay. You paid per hour.
yeah.
To be on AOL, and they paid me in AOL time.
Wow.
Oh.
And then when they finally said, okay, we're going to make it a flat rate, and so you guys are basically worthless now.
Is AOL older than Yahoo, or is Yahoo older than AOL?
AOL is one of the oldest, I think. It was AOL, CompuServe, and Prodigy. Those were the big three.
Some poor sap out there that's still paying for AOL somewhere like way out in the boonies.
Oh yeah, somebody
Yeah, I
is. I
gotta
mean,
pay
those,
my AOL
those
bill.
emails are still valid.
Oh yeah, no. I've one of my uncles has an AOL address.
Yeah.
I would have kept it. I really would have, but it was like they kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, so I went with Comcast, and now that's considered old. It's
Yeah.
like, Comcast. How
Oh
old
my
are you?
God, I know. It's like, what am I going to go on web crawler and find out what's going on here? Okay, so my question is that one of the things that I've been constantly trying to do especially since COVID, because COVID is what made me like a flat earther, like on the side. It's like I enjoyed it, but
Yeah.
COVID made me be like, okay, I need to like redirect my energy outward because I don't give a shit and be a part of this because I'm like, I need to do something. I can't just talk about. I can't just. I had to I can't keep my mouth shut.
Mhm.
And COVID pushed me over the edge, and I had the hardest time talking to people about anything. Now, flat Earth was one thing that was tough, and COVID was like flat Earth all over again. I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have a hard time talking to you guys about COVID now. Great. And so it was like flat Earth kind of got me ready for it because I was starting to kind of learn how to talk about it and getting the right mindset. And so like I've been always wondering how to broach the subject, what tells like and what the mentality you got to be in before you do it, like so to make sure that I'm not in a place where like I'm desperately needing them to see it, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to steal too much from entertainment, you guys know about this as much as anybody, but know your room, right? Know the room
know the room.
before you go in, because that makes all the difference in the world. You could be in a family gathering and everybody could already have some drinks, and depending how you bring it up, you could just trigger, family members that are just couldn't be more relaxed. And all of a sudden they'll be like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Or at the same time, you could be like Peter Jarvio, who goes cold room into a campus and says, oh, I'm gonna set my sandwich boards here for 8 hours and let students come
That
by.
guy has balls of steel, dude.
Oh my God. Let students come by that are half my age and let them just come at me for 8 hours a day. And he couldn't get enough of it. So it really depends. Okay. A lot of it depends on what your temperament is. So if you don't like getting big pushback, then feel out whoever you're going to talk to. You really got to spend some time and figure out what they are. I mean, even going down to like, are they red team, blue team? If they're red team, they're probably more apt to talk about conspiracies. If they're blue team, probably not as much. But if they're red team, are they, for example, super patriotic. There's this wonderful
After
quote.
COVID.
What?
Especially after COVID, I feel like
Yeah,
Team
yeah.
Red kind of just was like, well, I guess they. Can
Oh
do
yeah,
this.
yeah. Team Red was not doing well. I mean, well, let's face it. The right fights, and Red Team controls most of the enforcement that's out there. That's just how it's always been. Hawk and Dove. And so you're asking like sheriff's departments and police departments, oh yeah, we want you to enforce something that seems a little controversial, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to do that. But when it comes to, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, okay. So red team, blue team, that's kind of where you start. But also, like there was an example I use, a Fox News commentator. Her name was Dana Perino. Still is. She's still on there a lot. And her quote when she was, Flat Earth was kind of broached to her, but she was kind of interpreting it like the Apollo missions, is Apollo fake or not fake? And she says a quote that still haunts me to this day, which is, she goes, "I believe in the moon landing because I'm a patriot." It's like, okay.
That's how it works. Things
Which
are
means
real based off of your
whatever the
emotional-
government says, that's gospel. And who are you to question it? Right? It's like, that's, if you're a good American, you believe whatever the news tells you. It's like, wow, said the news commentator. So
it did seem like that's what we figured out in 2015, is that the people that like gravitate towards flat Earth were like, wow, it's flat. We had this innocent kind of like arrogance of like, well, I get to tell so many people, they're going to be so delighted. And then I went out and I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea that like this level of, I won't hear it because I never really.
I can actually say something that the level of empathy that's in this community is high. So that's your first thing. It's like, oh my God, we just went out and checked. The water takes its own level. It's flat. It's just, we live in a brand new world that we didn't understand our whole lives, and you want to scream it from a mountaintop. Yeah. And you got to remember that there's also a lot of people that have no idea what empathy even is. They probably can't define it. So we're talking about like, highly sensitive, intuitive people in our community, trying to get something across as trying to help people, and you just can't, or you not say you can't, but it's a rough road.
That's an excellent point. In fact, I try to warn people, because we're in the holidays now, which is the worst time for flat earthers ever. Because the biggest drawback psychologically for the flat earth community is that when you get it, right? Again, like Alex is saying, it's like, yeah, I'm going to write a song about it, and it's something you want to do. But at the same time, the flip side of that is you believe now it's like, it is so easy. It's so easy. I can convince somebody over coffee. It's like, no, you forget the road it took you to get there.
Oh my God, we were talking about that too, Mark.
Yeah, it's not. It's like a heroin addict doesn't like kick it like just because they just say, "Oh, I need to kick it." No, it's like a process. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I forget that we get I get a little selfish because I want to see the fruits of my labor kind of work for me in real time.
You're never going to get it. It is the most It's one of the most unsatisfying things of flat Earth is that you want the people, kind of like the Owen Benjamin thing. You want them to flip right in front of you you want to see the light go on in their head. It's like, oh wow, I see it. Right? Kind of like when
ever watching Owen do that in real time. Like, yes, let's do. I need to see this. It was so great, but we don't get that privilege.
No, you don't. It happens quietly when they're at home, or not quietly when they're at home by themselves, and it takes hours and days or weeks, and all of a sudden they're staring at the computer. They're going, "Oh crap."
Have you ever had anybody like actually get it fast, and you're like, "No, you don't get to do that." I have a friend that was like, "Oh, that makes sense. I guess I'm a flat earther now." I'm like, No, that's not. I don't. That's
women get it faster than men. There was a woman who was driving. She was an Uber driver for somebody that was doing a meetup where we were shooting the documentary down in Los Angeles, and one of our people was giving her the nickel tour while she was driving, and she got so excited about it. She understood at least the basic concepts that she parked her car, came in with the guy, and she came up to me and I do the standard blah blah blah. I go, "So how long you been in?" She goes, "What time is it now?" I go, "What?" She goes, "I don't know, maybe 25 minutes ago." Yeah. And I go, "What?" And but now she wasn't 100%, but she was way on. I mean, she was far down the road. Most people, digging their heels and they're dragged into flat Earth.
Yeah, she's an exception to the rule too, and like
Yeah.
a way to like actually get your arms around like what it actually would feel like to say what we would call a normie to suddenly have flat Earth dumped on them would be you'd have to take all of the at least in my case 17 years since loose change got me on the conspiratorial path or whatever that is, and I went everywhere. I was looking at objects on Mars before I realized that Mars isn't a place you can go to. All of these things, and to expect them to have that experience in one single sitting would cause them to have a heart attack. They would just fry.
I was even worried when I was first doing this back in 2015. Of course I didn't have the calculations, but I was worried that there was like a small percentage of people that were going to crack, that were going to, when it hit it fast enough. Again, I kind of call it, you've heard me say it, the flat Earth drug deal. That's really what it is. I mean, you're out there, you're on the street corner, with conspiracies underneath your jacket, and it's like, flat Earth, or somebody comes, like, you got something for me. It's like, I got something. I don't think you can take it. At least not pure, right? It's flat. It's flat Earth, and it's like, no, it's like, I don't think you're ready for it.
No, it's true. Like I looked into conspiracies. I think now, kind of as an escape.
Yeah.
At the time, I thought maybe I was really curious, and I am. But to be honest, there was other things that could have kept my mind off stuff. And looking into Sandy Hook and all this stuff wasn't really going to like change. So, but it was, it was more of like a hobby. Like, it's like, So going into flat Earth was like I was just looking for some weed, and they gave me some black heroin. And now I'm like, well, what do I do now? Like it's in there, and so it became more of my life because I discovered something that was bigger than the reason why I was going down that road. And I'm like, now it's pissing me off. They're lying to kids about the map, and I had an emotional. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is not a lie. I can just be like, well, like I can't,
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like the once you get your arms around it as much as we have so far, doesn't it mute just about everything else down to like this sub level of like, what's happening over here? Oh, there's a shooting. Oh, there's a. Like,
I know. I try not to be. I try not to diminish, tragedy. But nowadays, it's like. In fact, I've told Peanut, sometimes during the show, he'll send me headlines. I'm just going, dude, and I'm not trying to be weird or get any censorship or anything. But it's like, look, I go, if it's not even double digits, I'm not even looking at it. Right? It's like, what the hell? Why would I? I mean, I opened the day with flat Earth was just this monstrous, physically monstrous conspiracy. Everything else is a lower tier. I mean, with the exception of maybe the revealing of another civilization.
Yeah.
Other than that, and no, everything's below it. So, which is why, by the way, sorry, let me get this in real fast. Yeah. Which is why we got so much hell from 9/11 people. In the beginning, because there were 9/11 people who are like, dude, this is the biggest thing ever. There's nothing bigger than 9/11. How dare you come into this arena? I'm going, well, that's the point. It's our arena now because it's physically an arena. Yeah. So you're just talking about some planes.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing. They're talking about one incident on one date in history in one location.
There you go.
Take every conspiracy, put it on a graph. Okay, you got Gulf of Tonkin here, right here in this area. That's that. What is flat Earth? It's all time everywhere. It takes over the entire graph.
It's the first one. Right. It's the first one.
Yeah, and so it really is that big, and it affects everybody. And now we're getting to the place where not conspiracy-minded people are opening up to it because COVID's pushed
it pushed people home to watch things they normally wouldn't watch. Because seriously, when you're home, I mean, come on, I've run out of things on Netflix. I was like, I did a trial on Epics the other day just to see. It's like, what are these guys are doing? But people were taking break from Netflix to watch YouTube, or people were sharing YouTube videos with each other. You can only be on YouTube for so long before all of a sudden rabbit holes start appearing.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas like, wait a minute, what's this? What's this controversial thing?
Yeah.
And then you run into the celebrities, which have been more vocal during the pandemic. The big three, of course, Kyrie in basketball, Aaron Rodgers in football, Novak Djokovic in tennis. not to mention all the other people. There's a whole bunch of people that'd be like, what do you got to lose now? Beforehand, they were really career twitchy about things. Now they're like, you know what? I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I'm just going to talk about it.
I wish we had more of them. I wish we had more.
I do too.
Had the balls to.
I do too. It was nice that Eddie Griffin came out recently, though. That was kind of fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was really shocked by how few people, like, especially like Rage Against the Machine. Where were these bands? Like, I
Right.
just didn't understand.
They weren't really raging against the machine. They were.
That's
they were part
the scary
of the club.
part.
They were part of the
Yeah,
club.
like it's how controlled.
Well, I mean, what were
everything
you
is.
raging against in the mid '90s?
That's true. Everything's great.
The
More
internet,
communism, please.
yeah, the internet wasn't even at full speed, not even close. So, good songs and everything, but bad timing. In the long run.
Yeah. No, I mean, I just assumed there would be more pushback in the music world, and there wasn't.
Well, with the homogenization of a lot of music, once not to don't go down that road, but I was doing some research a few months back on the whole auto-tune thing, and it's like once the producers realized they could create a certain sound, it was like there was nothing out there. You guys know more than anyone.
Oh yeah.
Mainstream has lost their edge. It is gone. I mean,
there's no genres anymore. Like,
no, there's not. There's not. Yeah. And you almost, in fact, it's funny. That's kind of ironic. The early auto-tune was kind of the edgy stuff. Yeah. Cher, believe in love, when they're twerking.
Believe in love after love.
Exactly. When you're warbling stuff in the beginning, but now it's seamless to where it's like, oh
yeah, no, it's so easy.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song, but everybody sounds like everybody else, and the kids don't care. Kids are
they don't care, and it makes it so anybody to be honest, like I can put a live like fixer and I'd be like I can either like do my warm-ups or I could just hit this button and it'll fix it for me. I mean,
well, you guys probably know, producers have been saying now it's like we actually don't do a whole lot of takes. We don't have to. It's like go through the lyrics maybe once a few times. It's like, no, we'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's easy and it's undetectable. I mean, the stuff that you're hearing though is like they're putting the auto-tune like a ridiculous amount kind of as the art. But there's a way to do it more subtle. And most of the time they'll do like 30%, so they'll put a little but still it's like,
Whenever I think of that movie, was it with Lou Diamond Phillips called La Bamba, I think. Yeah. When he was doing all those takes again and again, I just laugh now. It's like, oh, sucker.
That's how it was. It was like, that one was perfect. One more.
Exactly. It's like, oh, nowadays
that was the best one. Just do one more. I'm like, why?
Dude, you'd be lucky if whoever goes into the studio even gets a chance to take off their hoodie. Yeah, you're like, just sing a couple bars. That's it. Get out of here. Like it is.
And
Taylor, go home.
I want to talk about something. Let's talk Math Powerland and the origins of when you actually flipped, because I think this is the most fascinating part of something.
Yeah, Matt flipped me.
And he was the guy, and we originated this story way back to his NASA party on Long Island, right? That's the origin story of like how the flat Earth got leaked, right? Hamptons. Now, did that happen before Dubé, or was Dubé kind of like operating in parallel of this whole thing?
Parallel. So Eric Dubé was making he was basically just reading some from books. He was narrating some of the older books and putting them online, but it was pretty thick stuff, and a lot of people weren't getting it. And that was in 2014. Mm-hmm. And I did not know Eric was doing stuff because I had caught some of Matt's early stuff. And again, which I talked about in the documentary, it was really, thank you for asking that, by the way, because very few people, I know it was a really good story. I mean, I even narrated the story and it was animated in the movie.
Yeah.
That people didn't get it. It was like, because
he was the enemy of that particular picture. It was like, he was just,
he was. And so people, I think, just tuned him out. But he was the guy that really got me into it because of his girlfriend, his former girlfriend, when he was in Montreal before he fled Canada to come to Vegas, where his girlfriend sat him down, and I didn't know. I honestly did not know anything about the guy, but she sat him down on probably a Sunday morning. It was the only solid, sober video he ever did, ever. And she sat him down. I mean, it was the only other time, by the way, she was in the room. And she sits him on the couch, and you can tell she's behind the camera, and she's like, go, let's talk about it. And he tells the story about the NASA party. And the NASA party, as time went on, I figured out that he was just this clueless talent that was at the party to make the party more interesting. And he didn't know anything even several years after the party had ended. And then only several after. So what happened was, here's what I kind of pieced together, was he didn't work for NASA directly. He worked for a guy who worked at NASA. One of the higher mucky mucks, rich, had a house in the Hamptons. And Matt, it was, he I will say this, he wasn't, I don't think, much of an actor. He did some bit parts in Hollywood. You could look him up. But he was a hell of a painter, and he could paint a room. You could tell him to go into a room. It's like, dude, I want a surreal moonscape. I want this. Go nuts. Feel the room out, man. And as long as you weren't in a hurry, awesome. And he wasn't in a hurry, so he was painting this guy's house, the inside of this guy's house, maybe even one room, who knows. And a party was coming up. Matt wasn't done, and so the guy probably thought, hey, you know what? This guy's young, good looking, relatively interesting. He should show up at the party. He'd probably liven things up. So he's there at the party, and the story goes, you know this story, where he's just walking around the room with wine, just listening to people, NASA people talking to each other. And some of the department, it's all higher ranking people. And the department's head's like, yeah, I heard, Bob said that the GPS doesn't work down in the Antarctic, near the Antarctic base, right? And it's like, yeah, Tom, you should send a team out to, pass such and such a line to see if you can figure that out. And another guy, like the smoking man, comes into the room from X-Files, and he goes, if Tom sends his guys out that far, they're not coming back. and Matt, of course, it's like, what? Well, because Matt's got to be like 25, when this is happening. He's like 40 now. And he goes, why would he come back? It's like, well, because if you go out because GPS doesn't work out that far. GPS, once you go out past a certain marker, GPS does not work. And Matt goes, why? Because it's too cold. And the guy, no, because it's flat, right? Wow. And the guy and Matt doesn't get it, right? Because again, you're telling a 20-something-year-old back then when flat Earth is not even a topic. Right. I mean, the internet's barely even a thing. It's like, what are you talking about, right? Because this happens with us. We tell people, and people. I mean, hell. Who's the big UFO guy? Stanley. Who's the big UFO guy that died?
There's a couple of them. Was it the guy with the glasses and the
the guy with the glasses and the beard?
Stanley.
Crap. I can't remember.
He was on Up All Night out in Vegas.
Yeah. He was. I mean, when he and I were debating it, he thought I was a metaphor. When it's like because he was hearing me talk for like 10 minutes. He goes, wait a minute. Stanley Friedman.
Yeah, that's it.
And he goes, wait a minute. You're talking about flat Earth like it's a real thing, like it's not a metaphor for something, right? And I go, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He goes, well, how does that work? It's like, oh, so then we have to go into it. But anyway, so this guy, the smoking man, comes in and he takes a piece of chalk because the guy's got high-end granite floors, and he starts drawing out the world. And it would have been such a great scene to shoot. Cinematography would have been through the roof because guy's drawing it, and as he's drawing it, he's going into the thermodynamics of how things work, and it's all about energy transfer. How the kind of like what we already know, which is how the jet stream works in a big circle, right? And he's drawn it all out. And Matt says at the end, when you look, if you pulled back and looked at what he drew on the floor, you're looking at the UN map. Mm-hmm. Wow. He didn't know what he was looking at, right? So fast forward a couple of years later, then Matt in Canada, light bulb comes on. He's like kind of like Homer, with that Homer is slow episode. And he's like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That guy wasn't drawing just a funny picture.
Yeah.
No, he was drawing it like it was real. So, so then Matt tries to get a hold of all these people, and they lost. Their numbers changed. He couldn't get a hold of anybody, and he still won't give out names for whatever reason. He won't say who is who. He's still got. He's a guy that would do interviews later and would stop in the middle of an interview and be like, "Phew, you hear that?"
Oh yeah.
Do you think that's because he was
paranoid.
so early into like breaking this into like the public consciousness that like
he was
would
scared.
break you into I would be paranoid too.
Yeah, he was scared of his own shadow. He swore there were people coming after him, and at some point, you really have to abandon that. It's like, dude, you're doing it for a reason, and if you are not sleeping because every time the house creaks, you swear it's a ninja coming through the window, then you shouldn't be doing it. But
I mean, like a lot of these conspiracies are nuts, but like if you're somebody that's actually right and it's that big and you're like, where is everybody else that's seeing this?
right.
Like, and then you realize that I don't blame him at all for going to the cuckoo farm because I don't know. I feel like I would for sure. And if it wasn't for you to come along and just be like, all right, let's let's take a little breather here.
Well, I mean, but by the way, back to Alex's thing really fast, which is when I heard that story, when you were watching this guy tell the story on a couch, absolutely straight up calm. He wasn't animated. There was nothing in his system. It was mesmerizing. And I'm going, I mean, you could tell it was just matter of fact. It wasn't a ton of conviction. It was just, he was like, look, this is how it happened. And she thought it was an interesting enough story, and it is, that she wanted to get it on camera. And once I heard that, that is what got me to just start going down the rabbit hole. It's like, all right, you sold me. I'm going down. And I joined the Flat Earth Society, which I still get hell for. Right here, Flat Earth Society.
Yeah. I mean,
join
that early before everything we know about it now.
Well, here's what gets. So I join them, right, and then I realize these guys are absolute gatekeepers. The limited amount of gatekeepers, and I make a video, a clue, and I talk about don't anyone go to the Flat Earth Society, and then it circles back, right? This is how the grapevine works. Circles back, and people are giving me hell because I joined the Flat Earth Society, and I'm going, yeah. I was the one that told you not to join in the first place. So stop giving me shit. Stop emailing me saying, you're a shill because you joined the Flat Earth. It's like, how did you know not to join the Flat Earth side? Because of me.
Yeah. No, it makes no sense. Everybody else in the world is telling you that the world is a ball, and you're like the only one trying to give out advice, and then it's like, and you are the problem. It's like,
right.
Whoa.
Oh, hell, dude, I've had now, and it's been a handful of times. I've had my own clues sent to me about 6 times.
That's so funny.
In 7 years.
That's
it's
really
like, dude,
funny.
you really should check this guy's stuff out. It's like, you have no idea who you're sending it to. Well, because if you get links and you don't know, you're just listening to it, you don't figure out the name.
Yeah, but your voice is pretty recognizable. I mean, anyone that knows you a little bit should be like, that's...
Yeah, but every once in a while you get somebody that doesn't know me, but knows my email address for some reason, and I get whatever.
What's fascinating is back in that 2015, 2016, like that what we call the magic era of YouTube, where we were still getting all our content. Right. And everything was like people were mirroring your videos, so I knew your voice, but I was like, wait, this is on a different channel, and there was people mirroring all sorts of stuff. So I was like kind of spinning for a while, trying to figure out who's actually getting up to this, what's actually happening, because I wasn't necessarily a YouTuber. I put a bunch of music videos up there, but I didn't understand what was going on behind the scenes. Most of that was because I flagged my own videos as Creative Commons. Because why would I care? The whole point for me was to get answers. So I told people, I said, not only can you watch my videos and feel free to call me, you can share, you can put your videos anywhere you want.
Here.
What?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, why?
I don't
think they can hear us, Mark.
What? I can hear both of you.
Oh, never mind.
I can hear you, Mark.
I can hear all three of you. What's wrong with you guys? Really? You want me?
Bad. I didn't realize I was muting.
Whoa, he ran into a bandwidth issue. I mean, that's why I'm kind of scared to do like a fake freeze. If I was like,
I know, right?
Yeah, that's actually. Isn't it?
Can you hear us now? We can hear you.
I could always hear you.
Yeah.
So
I don't even operate on these things. I actually hardwired my laptop into the wall just to
Oh yeah,
do
me
that
too.
shit.
I don't do
Yeah.
Wi-Fi unless I have to.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, none of that. So that's why I don't know why.
And,
that's
and
Well,
by
then
the
you
way,
have
I do
shit
not,
connection, then, buddy.
I do not take the phone to bed. So when the phone rings, I'll hear it off in the living room. It's because people will call, there will be occasional calls in the middle of the night because people are just idiots.
Yeah.
It's like, do you have any idea? It's like it's 3 a.m. Where are you?
So what do you think for entertainment in Woodby Island? Like what?
Oh, you mean like physical entertainment?
Oh,
Like
yeah, no,
actually
I'm just
getting out of the house
going
entertainment?
out and doing stuff. Like,
You got to leave the island, basically. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, people locally here, you go to coffee shops and restaurants and crap like that, the occasional dinner theater.
Yeah.
But the whole point is you're on an island. You got to go. You got to get
Right.
off the island if you're going to do anything, or go all the way up to Carver, but that's a Navy base. And what are you going to do up there?
Yeah.
So
I mean-
no, you got to. That's why you get on the ferry and take off, which is why being a kid, I wasn't kidding when I said it was an effort to get into trouble as a youth. Short of throwing rocks directly at cop cars,
Right.
it was all so tough to get into trouble here. I mean, people get, like if a kid threw a party and the cops showed up, people would be talking about it for 2 weeks at school. It's like, dude, the cops showed up.
Great place to grow up, though. Like you get to be a kid and actually be a kid.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. You didn't. Yeah, there was no weird.
That's true.
Yeah, it wasn't the hood. It
Yeah.
was not. You weren't. Yeah, yeah. We didn't. Everything was. Plus, it was in the '80s when I was here. So
Oh, yeah.
shiny, happy
That's-
people. It was
So
awesome.
so let me ask you, like, okay, so for the Flat Earth clues, were
Yeah.
you what? I don't know, because you were so calm on that. Like, I believe that you made, and still to this day, probably the most palatable way of hearing it, because everything else seemed really scary with like music. And like, oh, they're all lying to you. They're lying to you. And like some people love that. That's like their thing. They get off on like, yeah, tell me how much I've been lied to. Boom, boom, ODD, boom.
You're
Love
like
it.
Yeah,
the
but you
ultimate
can't.
college
You can't
RA.
listen to that. The repeatability when you add a soundtrack to it, you are limiting your audience. Especially, you guys know this. Repeatability, because if they don't like the music the first time, they're definitely not going to like it the fifth time.
Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and so no, I never had any intention of adding a soundtrack to it because wasn't even sure if I was going to narrate it until the last minute. So I wrote the clues. I mean, I got up that first morning, 3 a.m, and had that Jerry Maguire thing where I sat
Just go
down
with
and
me.
I just typed, wrote it out. And what you're saying, the calm part was in every aspect. Because I had it. I had it in my head and I could hear the narrative in my own voice. Plus, I had done, as far as the tone, the pitch I was using, I had done so much high stress tech support, for at least a decade, more than that probably, in concentrated doses, where I was doing for really expensive software systems that were buggy as a freaking ant farm. People, and it had to deal with payroll. People had to be talked off the ledge, and so I was the guy that had to come. It's like, okay, you're gonna be fine. Don't worry, you're gonna get payroll out. I know there's people with guns in the parking lot with Confederate banners hanging off their trucks. I know this. It'll be okay. The sun's gonna come up tomorrow. So anyway, so I wrote as fast as I could, and I knew the writing was going to work because I didn't have to go back and change anything. There was no doubt. I never wrote a paragraph and said, "Oh, that stinks," just obliterate it. And then when I was done, I had the Forrest Gump logic, which was, when he was running back and forth, it was like, well, now that I'm done writing it, I might as well narrate it.
Yeah.
So I get a $20 Logitech headset, and just start talking and narrate it the best I could. And in fact, the early ones even had the little clicking sounds
You
where
could hear your mouse clicking. I remember that.
yeah,
Like,
because
let me ask you
the
this.
click would go in before the
You
audio
always
cut
hear it,
out.
always hear it. Now let me ask you this: like you did payroll for companies, but you were
Yeah.
also running into things with time zones. Did any of that like bleed into like you thinking about how time zones work, and so far as like the layout?
No, I was in fact, it's funny you mentioned that, Alex. I was so oblivious that when you probably heard this story in a few things where when I was doing tech support, I ran a tech support department for this one software company, and I wanted to put iconic Earth images, different ones, on all the monitors. Right? It was like because putting a background image on the monitor, that was a new thing. So I was like, oh yeah, and so I started doing searches online, and this was in about 2000, 2001. And if you did a Boolean search for Earth from space in 2000, 2001, it was exactly one image would come up, and that was the Apollo 17 blue marble shot. It's just tons and tons of rows and rows of the exact same image, but in slightly different, different resolutions, and I couldn't see the forest for the trees. Meaning, I always was like, NASA, you guys suck at the internet.
No.
I don't know what's wrong with you guys.
That was the worst. It's like, you guys are
They kind of suck at everything, sort of.
They-
It's almost
but
like they
that-
suck
but-
on purpose. Suck.
Can you imagine though?
like, that's a clue right there. How much NASA sucks. Like that to me, it was just like.
But I didn't
what?
get it. You know, in 2001, I would
None of us
never
did.
would have
None of us
thought.
did.
Well, there's
None of
only
us
one
did.
picture of the Earth from space, therefore
Well,
it
they
must
got
be
a lot to do. You know, I mean, they
Yeah.
don't need to spend all the $50 million a day on getting more than.
And let me throw one more thing before you want to go to break, which is Al Gore said in, I think it was the original Inconvenient Truth. It was funny because he ran into the same thing, because his background for his vice presidential office was the freaking blue marble shot, right? The first blue marble shot from 1972. And he calls up NASA. He's like, hey, can I get an updated version of this? They're going, nope, sorry, can't help you. It's like, what are you talking about? I'm the vice president. You don't have any shots? It's just for my wall. It's not like I'm gonna like distribute. It's like, sorry, we got nothing. And he even tried to put forward a satellite program that was going to be like this weather forecasting thing, but the ulterior motive was he wanted to get a different shot of the Earth from space for his freaking office, and he never got it. By the time they just dragged their feet and the program got kicked down the road, by the time they even thought about getting it going, he was out of office. And they said, yeah, we're going to cancel that. So whatever. So no, I had no freaking clue in 2000, 2001, all the way, seriously, up until 2014. Never even thought about it. I had antique globes, I had world maps.
If you'd known that you were going to be the guy that broke a story this big in that way, like, do you think you would have done it? Like, wouldn't you have been like, that's a little too big? Like, because you were expecting for something to get like proven wrong and just kind of go back to your life, right?
No, I mean, if I had to go back in time and tell my
you
past self,
thought you were going to like, some smart scientist was going to be like, oh, Mark, you're just clearly not seeing this. And you're like, oh, of course.
Well, no, that's what I wanted to happen.
Exactly.
That was the whole point. I just sat down and I said, look, that's why I put my contact information out there, which was like, some academic call me up and tell me where I screwed up, because I'm not seeing it. And I looked for 9 months. I looked and it's like, I can't do it. I'm a huge Globe fan, or at least I was. So now that I'm not, bring me back to the fold, somebody. And they never did.
Which was the ultimate, group sussing of information that you could ever do. You have the
all of a
internet
sudden
in front of you,
people
you're just
started.
like, well, let's just see what happens.
So you never thought to yourself, like, well, if it actually is flat, then I'm probably gonna have to like do all these interviews and do all this. Like,
no, never thought. Well, we if you want to go to break, we can talk about that when we go back.
Sure, yeah.
Let's play a little music. We'll be back in a bit.
Do a little break. Yeah. Well, how much? Like a 5-minute break here?
Play one of your songs, dude. Love to hear it.
I'm gonna play some Ventilators. I can't play the new one, but I'll play some Ventilators.
Okay.
And we'll come back in like 5 minutes. All right.
Word.
I'm not going anywhere.
Cheers.
Should I play some Joe Jackson? Dun, 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 dun.
Well, no, because that'll get copyrighted.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
I've already fucked up.
Ventilators. Doctors, nurses, gather round. Let me be quite clear. If you want to continue to work here, we follow COVID protocol. Positive test, it's time to interfere. Put them on remdesivir. Ventilators, powered up. Forget what you think's right, forget it soon. A new protocol when you get up in a room. When they say they can't breathe, let it be known that the vaccine would have helped, but now they on their own.
Just take the guidelines from the CDC. On a mission trying to find Dr. Tony Fauci. If you're coughing from COVID, there's no need to fear. Sit your ass down and take remdesivir.
So it may sound a bit mean and tortuous, but the protocol's right, and no one can sue us. PCR the patient, let them know what's up. You're positive for COVID, and I got the hookup.
These gangs are hardly breathing, probably down for sure. Get these hookers ventilated, it's their only cure. When it comes to settled science, there's no need to tweet, cause flattening
body bag this one and let's see who's next.
See my homie too clapping, vitals dropping down. I think we need to get another ventilator now. They always wake up real quick before they start to drown. Now it's time we get paid to ventilate these clowns.
So many are now dead, we took them all down. It's not just here, it's happening in your hometown. We don't care if you die, let me aspirate, intubation, elation, when we ventilate.
Just take the shot and do what you're told. Dr. Crumb is about to make them suckers turn cold. They drop it and yelling, it's a tad bit late. So Jared and Crumb had to ventilate.
I'm growing into a whole new vaccine. Get in me, I beg you. Seizures on a crazy ass level. We take away your life because your life's unessential. Drugs, tubes, we brings remdesivir. Can't breathe. We put you down and in a body bag. If you roll how we roll, we're gonna have to suggest this. It's the COVID era, we're genocidal occultists. We're gonna admit you give you drugs and make you stay. If you're sick or healthy, we've got to ventilate.
You guys remember that song, Whoop, There It Is? Remember when that song was everywhere? Everywhere! It was literally the 1990s version of Where's Your Mask? Whoop, there it is! Whoop, there it... Wait, hey, where's your mask? Hey, where's your mask? Hey, where's your mask? And then... nobody hears from it? Whoop, There It Is was so big that when Addams Family 2 came out and they had to come up with the song, they came up with Whoop, the Addams Family, There It Is. It was so overplayed. So when I'm talking about the shmeen, I'm just going to just say, when I'm talking about the... that's what it is. That's my new code word. I'm back. All right, there we go. A little break. That was nice. We good?
I just had some turkey.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
A little
I'm
tryptophan.
still- yeah, you know, just like lots left over. That
I'm a
sort of
big tryptophan of turkey.
thing. What was I going to talk about? There was something on my mind earlier that I wanted to cover. Specifically, oh yeah, so back to the origin stories of like where this all came from. Do you remember? How did you know Powerland's girlfriend? Where did you find her?
You mean his first girlfriend from Montreal?
The one that put him on camera.
Didn't know her. Didn't know her. Only
She posted
ran,
something online, like randomly
it
online?
was she just happened to be in a couple videos, and I mean he was not shy, you know, a performance artist by trade. He was not shy about putting her in videos when he could, and so just it was on his channel. It was one of his early. In fact, it's probably still out there. I know they used part of it in the movie, but it was again. It was only in hindsight that I realized what it was, because every video after that was just a drunken mess.
Yeah, he was a mess.
It was just awful. He could not keep it together. And again, it worked out. If you believe everything for a reason, I was the guy that was kind of passing notes in class. That was the part that drove me insane, because media was contacting me. It's like, so, do you know how to get a hold of Matt? It's like, yeah, I know how to get a hold of Matt. It's like, can you tell him to call us? And Matt be like, I don't want to talk to media right now. It's like, whatever. And so, you know, again, what happened? You know, I'd call him back. It's like, well, do you want to talk about it? It's like,
And
yeah,
there you
sure,
go.
why not?
And
And
now here we are.
yeah, and now here we are. What I didn't realize was how because he was so twitchy, could not do an interview. It was almost impossible to get him to. Well, I mean, you saw what happened with the producers from the documentary.
Yeah.
You know, he just freaking lost his mind. It was almost like that Steve Martin joke. When you rob a bank, make 3 demands and make one of them. And his 3 demands were $1 million in cash, getaway car, and the letter M stricken from the English language. Right? You got to make one of them crazy that way.
Yeah.
You know, and that was that was Matt's thing, where it was like, okay, I want seriously, he wanted cash up front, he wanted a guaranteed like 25% of screen time of the movie, and he wanted Mark Sargent condemned as a student, as a government agent / Hollywood producer. So it's like, what? How do you even throw that in there?
Well, was he just saying that just to be like, oh, I'll just take the first two, or did he
No,
legitimately?
it's absolutely serious. He was just
That's like the brown M&M like version. Like, isn't that what like?
he's just so freaking out there. Anyway, so at the end, they were so frustrated with him that they just said, "Hey, you know what? Fair use. We're just gonna. He's got his clips on YouTube. We're just gonna take it. We'll make it seem like we actually talked to him. We didn't." And then, and my favorite thing, you know, this one, Alex, which was he makes these videos during this process, and he of course hated the movie to no end. And he made this video. He's yelling at the screen. He's going, I've called 14 different lawyers and told them how these people were stealing flat earth from me, and no one will call me back. And I don't know why. It's like,
I mean, yeah. What do you
Can
do
you
when you
imagine
hear something like that?
can you imagine the messages that he was leaving on people's machines? And I'm sure people were sharing them. It's like, hey, Carol, come in here. Get the girls. Come in here. You got to hear this.
Yeah, it's like already the idea is already wild enough for everybody, but then a guy complaining about the fact that he's not getting, you know, what his share on a thing that's already crazy. Just that there's no way anyone's ever going to take that seriously at all. Period.
Somebody, a film studio stole flat Earth from him. Wow.
You touch on a subject though, because there is like an element of like flat Earth is equally as important for everybody. It's not like a conspiracy like 9/11 where you got to give a shit. Like, it's flat for people who are like, you know, like brain dead. So like it's not like it can't be something that's yours. And I think like for somebody that like, you know, for Matt Powerland, like he was like, wow, I did this, like, and I understand maybe a little bit of where he wanted like the credit.
But haven't we all agreed?
Something
This
so
is Flat Earth
big,
2.0, right? This is,
but it's too
2.0,
big.
yeah.
It's too big. Everybody we're all on this flat Earth, and
it's the only conspiracy you can't run away from.
It's also the most positive one, though. It's the only positive
which is why I was telling people, you know, down at the conference we were just at, why there's so many more women in the audience than you would find in anywhere else in the conspiracy world, because it's got a real positive aspect to it. And they've all told me the same thing. It's like, I go, why are you here exactly? And, you know, forget about the ones, I mean, you know, there were ones with their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, but there were a number of single women. And it's like, why are you here? It's like, well, because it's got a soothing sort of comforting feel to it. It's like, you don't hear that with anything else. You know, find me a happy banjo song about JFK. You're not going to find it.
Exactly.
You're not going to find it.
No one's making music for that. I will say though that there are a lot of people. I didn't know this, but because of flat Earth and because of like my desperation for like talking to other people, I did realize that there is a small amount of people that come into this community not really giving a shit about flat Earth, but just really excited that somebody's like going to give you that much attention. Like, oh yeah, you know, it's like the world is flat and this is why. And they're like, and like, you know, the types of people that will just kind of drain your energy. And they're like, I'm like, this is too easy. And so I will say to people, be careful if somebody's like too, like, if you're having a hard time talking flat Earth in the world and someone comes along and is just like, yeah, like, be careful, because you never know is what I mean.
You know what? Let me go back to one of your earlier things. If you were talking about how to broach it with other people, as far as testing the room, I believe the old test is still the best, which is you need to know how they feel about the moon mission. That is the safe. That is the safe saddling up, you know, side saddle to them, and because that way it doesn't make you seem way out there. It's like, because if they all of a sudden break out a tiny little American flag and start waving in your face while they're ranting about how their grandfather worked at NASA, you don't have a chance. You got nothing.
Or if they're wearing a mask, like, don't even.
If they're wearing a mask, you're done. Forget it. I do not. Anyone that wears a mask in public, I do not. I don't even treat them as human.
At this point, those people are just.
They're NPCs. They're stuck, because again, the administration has changed and said, "Oh yeah, it's pretty much over." They don't care. They've been so, I don't even know if traumatized is the word. You've given them a new comfort zone, and they're not leaving it.
Right.
They're like, no. I feel absolutely secure behind this. I'm just not gonna, I'm gonna keep my head down, wear my mask, and I'm gonna wear this till I die. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay. All right,
Well, it's
that's
like
fine.
if everyone had to wear an ascot and then they were like, you don't have to wear it anymore. Some people are going to be like, I kind of like this ascot. Like they're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
just,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like, and so it almost seems like I think they do it selfishly. I mean, because you don't have to brush your teeth that day, or maybe a lot of girls are pretty like are like, no, when I wear this, I don't get as much bullshit from people.
When
So I just,
when I
so
was
that
at the
maybe they
airport,
do it like that.
when I was at the airports, I would run into, international travelers, and I would run into Asian people that would be wearing masks. This was years ago. And I'd nudge somebody. It's like, what's the deal? And they go, oh, it's the Japanese. And I go, what? It's like, yeah, there's a lot of pollution and other crap. And they just a lot of them feel better with the freaking mask on. I go, yeah, but they're out of Japan now. It's like, yeah, you can't take them. What is it? You can't take the trailer park out of the
There was
girl
no
type.
Japanese Karens though. There were no Japanese Karens. There was no like you didn't see
No.
other Japanese people being
No.
like, "Where's your fucking mask, you self?"
No,
Like,
nothing like that.
It was a whole
Yeah.
different like it worked for that culture and like how that. But for us to be like, "Oh, you got to wear a mask," well, half of us are going to virtue signal and yell at each other, and
Well,
like,
but that died now too. Once the administration changed, now you've got this quiet, and I was wrong about that, where I thought for sure, well, I won't get into the how I got part of that wrong, but now you've got people basically live and let live, to where, yeah, there's 20% of the people that are permanently going to wear masks, and the other 80%. The problem is now is that some of that 80%, you don't know if they're blue team or red team, so the mask people don't know if they should yell at anybody, so they're just not. They're going to be like, yeah, you know what, I'm just going to do whatever as I do. And the people that don't wear masks are like, I mean, I have no impulse.
maybe the vaccine is so effective that they just aren't that many of them anymore.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Too
By the way,
soon?
again, not to go off on a different tangent, but here we are 2.5 years later, or 3 years later. No A-lister has dropped. There's been 3 A-listers that have twitched right badly. Celine Dion, Justin Bieber,
What?
and you didn't know about Celine?
I didn't know Celine.
Oh yeah.
Did
What
she
I
get
think
the
happened
soggy
was,
eye thing.
well, she had to cancel her tour and Vegas, so she's not back. And what I think happened was when she was over in Europe, because it happened when she was over in France, I think she got either her second or her booster over there, and she wasn't supposed to. You know how when you're an A-lister, you don't get the normal shots. You call your agent, and the agent said, they know exactly who's going to get them, who doesn't. Anyway, so she ended up twitching out. Justin Bieber twitching out, and then Katy Perry hasn't been doing well.
Yeah.
So between the 3, but again, none of them are dead. None of them are dead. And who's the latest one? That Al Roker, but I don't consider him an A-lister. He's television.
Yeah,
No,
he's just
yeah.
I mean, but everyone knows
Van
him.
Morrison did.
I
Kind
go, for me, an A-lister has to be able to travel out of country, and he gets the same response. He or she gets the same response no matter where they go. Al Roker could go to freaking London, and people would be like, "Didn't that guy look like somebody?"
Yeah,
that'd be about
Yeah,
it.
I know he looks like a lot of people.
Yeah, but he was a lot bigger. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, you
Yeah, he
don't
was
know.
back in the
Like,
day.
is that John Popper from
Did
Blues
you see that? Did you see that
Traveler, or-
one bit where Roker just froze up on screen like it's a
Yeah, it goes.
Yeah.
but he's just stuck. He's MK Ultra stuck in time.
Yeah, that was early too.
Shaq did one of those too. Shaq had one of those where he just said, I don't know if they're just
Yeah, he
joking
did. That
and
was
doing that, or
weird,
if it's
too,
like
yeah.
a bet
Yeah.
between them. On
Oh, by the way, I love that Shaq is back with us, and some of the media, again, the younger kids, the younger journalists, didn't realize that he was into it 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So when he was on that radio show down in Australia, and finally it's like, oh yeah, it's flat, blah blah blah, and there are people, some journalists are treating it like it's new, and it's like people forget.
I know. I mean, I always told you this, Mark. It's like the biggest battle between like our community and with the rest of it is like time and memory.
Yeah.
It's like for whatever reason we tend to remember a lot of stuff for whatever reason. Now maybe I misremember some things and I don't have a perfect memory, but like in general, my timeline sort of syncs up with most people's in this community that I talk to. Like we kind of like, oh yeah, what's that? Oh yeah, but it's that. But it's generally in aggregate we. Tend
There's
to
a
see
lot of goldfish out there, though.
Yeah.
A lot of goldfish people.
Maybe on purpose. Maybe.
Do you
not.
do you
Maybe.
think that flat Earth though is like has gotten to a point where you don't really need to do anything? I feel like you've done something in the beginning parts of it. You've gotten it to a place where it's like the same place. Where
Oh,
they teach you
it's
guitar.
self-perpetuating now. I mean, it's
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
it's not going anywhere. It's kind of like, I mean, there's so much content out there because the content doesn't go away. I mean, people have joked before, that porn is like that. Any porn hits the internet, it's there forever. It's also that way with flat Earth, in that once it's out there, unless you take down your channel, but even if you take down your channel, chances are it was mirrored by a whole bunch of people already. If it resonated, that I mean, right now, I mean, I do little projects here and there, but no one's ever clamored to me and says, "Oh, we're gonna need more clues." It's like I'll never get that. The only thing I get is I get the obligatory. Oh, sorry. Back to the music thing. Why I didn't add music to the clues and how it worked out is that I had so many people come to me and say, "Oh yeah, I listened to the clues the first couple times. I really listened to it, and now I just listen to it when I want to go to sleep because I want to listen to your cadence." Mm-hmm. And I go, you actually listen, you actually go to sleep and I'm still talking. And it's like, yeah, man, it's really like Chris Geo from Truth Frequency Radio is notorious for that. And it's like, okay.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I've listened to you and Jaron. You guys like put me to sleep all through 2017, and not because you were boring. It was
no, it's the cadence.
There wasn't that much I can listen to that I felt like I can trust. Like at that time, I went from the whole world is like credible to literally just a few people. And I know it sounds weird. I've told Jaron that like a few times, and he's like looked at me. He's like, dude, that's creepy. He doesn't say that, but like I can feel that. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like you have to, like I would listen.
Well, no, I mean, if you're too animated, you can't chill out. And I mean, no one goes to sleep with Alex Jones on headset.
Or Crow 777. You're not going to sleep. We love Crow. It's like I'm not going to sleep to Crow 777.
Or Dave Weiss.
Yeah.
I was just going to say Dave Weiss. Like, just buy the app. Buy the app.
Listen to what I say.
They're trying to tell us a lot. Yeah, but it's true. Yeah, and so like to have that voice, that's nice because it's almost subliminal. But it
is
between you and Jaron though, like the way you guys dished it to me, it worked, and everything else I loved, but I didn't like it when I first heard it. You guys were the only ones where I'm like, oh, okay, I'll actually listen to this. I was going to say a little bit of Dubé, but sure. He was. But he was like just doing fact after fact, like the 200 proof things. I'd hear one, and then after the 199 next, I'm like trying to like debunk the first one. And
did you ever hear, by the way? I'm sure Alex knows this one. How Jaron got into it? Jaron got into it after he watched the clues, and he didn't like the way I did. Because I was editing on a now completely unsupported video editor for Microsoft.
Jaron he was doing anti-NASA stuff
like Mario
before
Paint
that, right?
He was not that bad, but bad. And Jaron goes, seriously, he literally looks and his girlfriend at the time, I think, backed him up on this. He goes, hell, I could make better videos than this. So he goes down to the secondhand store and buys like an old copy of like Visual Studio 12 or something like that for like $6. Brings it home, spends a little time learning it, and that's why he started. It's like, well, again, poking at me. It's like, if this guy can get a lot of hits, he goes, I certainly could do it.
You definitely had like, here's a still image, and I'm going to talk over it.
Yeah,
and to me at that time, like I was so used to getting my information in a certain format, and that was one of the toughest things. Was like I was kind of used to the only way things were true is if it was the way, like, the news, like with this music and this. I mean, not so much in 2015, but to a certain extent, like from 2010 to 2015, I was slowly getting okay with hearing it from, from seeing it in like, that kind of way. But like there was something, it seemed discredible in the beginning because of that. It took me a while to be like, just because this guy, it's, he doesn't know how to edit and have like a corporation.
It wasn't flashy. More real. There were watermarks on some of the images.
Yeah, I remember that.
The Shutterstock ones.
Like, on stock. In fact, because I knew nothing about copyright law. I know a lot more now. And I grabbed. Well, I mean, to this day, I mean, I must have grabbed 10,000 images plus. But I just grabbed whatever it's like, okay, for this sentence, I need something. Here's what I'm thinking. And I just, Boolean string and grab whatever it was. Could care less. It's like, but license this. Like, I don't care. What's those funny lines on the screen? And I swear to God, 6 years later, Dreams Time, who owns this big library, contacts me. It's like, you owe us $30.
What?
For what? It's like this gambling thing where you had some people sitting around like a fake casino, a staged casino roulette table, going, yeah, okay, I'll pay it.
Yeah.
It's like 6 years later.
You had this ultimate thing. It's like when you're watching YouTube way back in the day, especially I've been on YouTube since 2005. I have like a super old channel. I'm probably so shadow banned and buried on the whole thing. It doesn't even matter.
Probably.
But it's like when you have this whole guilt thing that creeps up inside of you. You're like, I'm already watching YouTube, which is already questionable as far as like the quality of production that happens on TV. And then you take one step further down past the shit and down into Flat Earth, which is like, then you're just like, I don't want anyone to ever see me watching this. This was my feelings in 2015.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
No, I was hiding my computer like it was porn. I'm like, don't
people
look at
would walk
this.
up behind me, I just slam the laptop and like,
Okay, let me fess up to you guys. When I clicked on my very first Flat Earth video, right, which was like recommended for me over in the sidebar, and there was not a lot over there. I think it was it was a Jay Henning Caligia. He's a guy from Germany.
Right.
Anyway, as I'm clicking on it, I'm getting this flushed feeling over my face, right? And like actually, I'm embarrassed, right?
Almost like you're watching porn.
I'm alone in a room with the drapes pulled, right? I've never had that feeling with porn.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why this kind of threw me. I was like, wait a minute. Why am I feeling this way? Nothing. I've been on the internet since the beginning. Nothing phases me.
Yeah. No,
and
you're
yet
right.
this did.
Like, you're like, why do I feel so ashamed? Like, what is inside of me? What was told to me as a kid to make me hate
that was
this?
the big
so
programming.
much?
The big programming jump. That's what you had to get past.
Weird.
Flat Earth shame. I have never gotten shame with anything else. It's like, yeah, it's really weird. I probably shouldn't be looking at that, but I never got embarrassed.
Yeah.
Oh no,
over it.
I was a karaoke KJ, like, so I would pick up my computer, and use it, and I would just use YouTube, backing tracks. And sometimes on the main screen, I wouldn't put it all to the full, and it would say like on the sides, recommended like Flat Earth, and I'm like, oh shit, like the whole bar could see that. Looking at, and this was like 2017.
You doxed yourself in front of everybody.
Oh my god, I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna think I'm insane.
There's a video on my channel that I grabbed from some other guy, and during the 3 years which we were promoted to no end on YouTube, when the algorithm was just pumping us all the time. And it was a guy that was complaining. It was a pretty funny video where he was sincerely asking, because every once in a while you get somebody on YouTube to be asking something. They'd be like, hey, does anyone know how to swap out a carburetor on a 38 Chevy, something like that? And he goes, I'm getting Flat Earth videos recommended to me. And I keep clicking, no, I don't like, no, please, please, no. And they keep showing up. No matter what topic I type in there, I keep getting Flat Earth videos. He goes, I've never watched a Flat Earth video in my life. He goes, why is this happening? Somebody help me out. And that's when I knew that we were, for whatever reason, I don't know, it was deliberate or they hadn't caught it. Or whoever was going to change it was just dragging their feet. Who knows? But we could not.
I know it was pushed really hard and then never allowed to.
Yeah. Well, but at that time, it's like, look, when you push somebody for topic for 3 years straight on YouTube, there's nothing else you have to do. You've saturated the market. Absolutely saturated.
It was like an annoying little. All right, I'm like, all right, I'll watch you and debunk you. Okay, all right, I get it. Flat Earth. And then then that was the beginning. That was the start.
And luckily for us, the early celebs who didn't really pan out were replaced by better celebs. So like in the beginning, remember there was rapper B.O.B. who you probably saw, like T-Pain came out the other day, and he was talking about Flat Earth. And at the very end of his little clip, his YouTube short, he says, "Yeah, I talked to B.O.B. He does not give me a lot of good information." B.O.B. cannot do an interview about Flat Earth to save his life. He's just not great. And then like Tia Tequila, she was into it, and then is like, yeah, people were going, oh, whatever. But then
Oh, but
Kyrie
Logan
Irving.
Paul worked out really good though. That was fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
Logan.
Yeah, I mean,
Logan, I won't say that I'm happy that he tore his ACL during that wrestling match, because now he's just desperate. He's going to do anything he can to, he's
Hey,
in the.
you called it, man. You called it.
Oh,
yeah, didn't you
hated
dump that
it.
conference? You dumped
honestly,
that
I thought you were
conference.
gonna
You
be
were like,
wrong.
I'm going back on the plane. Did you really
Yeah,
just turn around and go right back
seriously,
to the plane?
I snuck out of the conference and that morning. And again, I wasn't angry at everyone. Everyone was there. They just didn't know him because his demographics are so young. There were only like 5, maybe half a dozen people in the whole conference that even knew who he was in the whole conference.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the rest of us was like, only because I did enough internet research that I had run into this guy because of the whole Japan forest thing from a few years back that should have got him blacklisted for life. But that
Yeah,
kid.
I mean,
But again, it also shows you that when people are willing to spend a whole bunch of money to punk you, that they're the topic. Which remember what happened?
And I can speak to that, dude. Like, therein lies the bugger of it. It's like all the empathy. Like, Robbie has got a bunch of fucking big heart, and like his heart's in the right spot.
Right.
But it blinded him. His empathy blinded him to like these other things that happen out there. There are people out there that don't think the same way that you do. They don't
do I think that he actually was party to the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing the very next year in Dallas? I don't know, but at the same time, it wouldn't have surprised me, because why wouldn't he have?
Do you think he would have played it like thinking that it'll get more publicity for Flat Earth, so he?
Oh, sure.
I mean,
if Kimmel says, sorry, I almost slipped off my chair. If Kimmel says, hey, we're going to send in a team, but we're also going to send an infiltrator dressed like a flat earther, he's going to probably just do some jokes and be on camera.
Right.
Robbie'd be fine with it. He'd be like, is this contingent on you guys coming? And and they'd be, yeah. He'd be like, all right, then I don't know anything. And come on, Kimmel did a 7-minute skit on us.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't. I mean, there are people.
So what do you think? What do you think Robbie's disposition
anymore,
was on that? Do you think it was just like, hey, bad publicity is still good publicity? I mean, I understand that concept. I mean,
oh
yeah.
Or well, it's not. Again, the original saying to that is that even bad publicity is free. And there are people. Hell, producers have told me many times, which is, it doesn't matter whether you love a topic or you hate a topic, as long as you're talking about the topic.
Yeah.
And with this, it's like people. It was kind of like the Amy Adams thing, which I love bringing her up, because she recruited people because she hated us. The actress, Amy Adams.
Wow, she was really that aggro?
Oh, yeah. Well, because her dad was into it. Her dad was one of ours.
It's a daddy issue. It's a daddy
and
issue.
So, yeah, daddy issues. So she would go to, I mean, again, that great, wonderful moment where Kelsey Grammer tells me, he goes, hey, did you want to know how I found out? I go, sure. He goes, Amy Adams told me at an Oscar party. And I go, how did that happen? And he goes, well, you don't know, but in Oscar parties, there's a lot of celebs that are, walking around, and, after a few drinks, we're talking about sinister stuff and how the man's sticking it to you and all this stuff. And they really don't like taxes for whatever reason. And all of a sudden, Amy walks in and she goes, you could put all that BS to bed. Let me tell you what my father's into. And she just starts ranting on him. Well, think about it. I mean, it's kind of like politics, which is, you don't pay attention so much to the positives, but you really pay attention to the negatives. Right. And so she was just going to town on us, and people were like, I wonder what's upsetting Amy so much. We got to look this up. Right. And people were looking it up, and sure enough, she was converting people
the best
on.
Thing about Flat Earth is they can't censor it too much. They have there's a fine line. That's why it's like a lot of little. But if they get rid of it too much, it's too obvious.
Which is why that Senate hearing, when they were trying to do the internet taboo laws, and they said it was so weird to watch. They did it like a Saturday.
Yeah.
And
is this the one where she's like censoring like topics like flat Earth, and that was the one that she brought up, the girl from?
Well, yeah, well, 3 topics, 2 were banned. She goes, she goes, you can't talk about the election anymore. You can't do medical misinformation, and then she goes, and we're going to recommend flat Earth less. It's like,
wow,
what?
Okay.
Because people believing the flat Earth is becoming an epidemic, like it's a problem in society.
Right?
I don't understand how they can I thought it would be harder for them to make these arguments, but people actually believe that it's so detrimental for people to believe the
Well,
Earth is
the
flat.
science people.
Yeah.
Don't forget again
It's everything.
the science. We'll go all the way down to the school level. There was this wonderful moment where Kyrie Irving was at the Forbes magazine 30 under 30 conference. 30 people, influencers under the age of 30. I think he's 30 now. And they asked him, and he was apologizing to the science teachers, because what was happening is that he, and I won't pick on demographics too much, but you imagine your average inner city science teacher, right? He's talking about, here's the globe, blah, blah, blah. And somebody's hand goes up in the back, right? It's like, yeah, so my man, Kyrie, he makes like 10 million a year and he's got his own shoe line and he's got all this stuff. Yeah, he's pulling bank, dude. What do you got? You're just a science teacher. And he says he says it's flat. And so all these science teachers were writing Kyrie going, dude, you are killing me. You just bear, because seriously, when it comes to, again, I highly recommend the documentary, Fake Famous, for anyone who hasn't watched it. To kids, there's something out there that's really unique happening out there, which is when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, it's not, I want to be a race car driver, or a fireman, or a doctor, or a pilot, or anything. They want to be famous. And fame is measured in social media now. Yeah, and what's really weird is the follow-up question, which is, well, what do you want to be famous for? And they just freeze on you. It's like, what do you mean? I want to be famous. And it's like, you got to be famous for something. It's like, this rock star was famous. Oh, this baseball player was famous. It's like, for being a baseball player, for being a musician. And it's like, no, I want to be famous. Like what? Like Paris Hilton? She was an heiress to a fortune, right? You can't just do that, but that's what they want to be.
What does she do? Yeah,
that's what they want to do. So
TikTok's actually doing that. TikTok is basically that.
Yeah.
Where
how many
it's a
talent,
validation.
but here's like a
We have
medium.
generation.
All you gotta do is like.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say,
true.
There's a generation of validation, which is like, we just need to be validated. Even if I cut my balls off and become a woman, validate me. It goes over and over again.
Or validate for nothing at all. Validate for, look, I'm going to buy 10,000 subs from an offshore company, and
right,
and that 10,000 subs means I'm someone already. And the guy from Fake Famous, I don't want to dwell too much on this documentary, but I highly recommend it, where he goes, you don't get it. He goes, there are millions of people on Instagram right now with at least 100,000 followers. And he's like, there's less than 10,000 famous people in the world at any given time. He's like, who are all these people? It's like, they're not. They're just kids who have bought the followers because that's, peer pressure in the high school.
Right.
It's so instant, and they can also get instant gratification. Like, who'd you use to buy your followers from? And no one wants to accuse each other of doing it. They just do it. And it's like, it's just awful. Like the kid that faked the moon mission the other day. The Real Pack channel that's got like 600,000 subs.
I don't know. That looks pretty real.
The PAX one?
I haven't seen it, but I just assumed it was real. The moon thing.
Oh well, hell, the thing was he's still running the feeds even now. He's running live feeds saying they're Artemis mission, and it's like, what are you talking about? Those aren't the NASA feeds. You just made, this is just CGI crap you just made up. He doesn't care. He just wants the hits.
Hey, no, I bought a server and I ran a 24/7 NASA channel just for that. It was an idea to have like a honeypot of just like, I'm gonna put some nonsense on for a year, get people like subscribed. And
you totally could do it now.
I totally want to, and but I didn't pay for the server, so I went away. But for a while, like, it was just one of those 24/7, and people believe it. You just say live, and you just say some nonsense, and for some reason you can. It's amazing. But I wanted to show you guys something real quick. Can I show you this? I was listening to this book, and I liked the first one. The first book was called "The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck," and so by this guy Mark something, and I was reading his second book, and it sucks when you read stuff when they use that argument. Well, people used to believe the earth was flat, and now we know this, and then they use that as an argument for whatever. And then, like, I understand like the argument, but it's not the case, and it kind of like discredits everything. And this said it perfectly. This was exactly what he said. This is what I was listening to when they say, why are they hiding it? This is somebody who's a glober. And he's saying, because in the infinite of space and time, the universe does not care whether your mother's hip replacement goes well, or your kids attend college, or your boss thinks you made a bitchin' spreadsheet. It doesn't care if the Democrats. It's basically saying because of the infinite expanse of space, and he's using that argument to not say that's why you shouldn't give a shit. I thought that was interesting because now that I know that it's not the case, that might be why. Like hearing it from a glober saying our like reason why they're lying. Oh, they're hiding God. Yeah, okay, but now I'm hearing like because there is no God, we can all have to give a shit. It's like, oh, there it is.
It's really a really subtle gaslighting procedure, is what it is.
Right.
They're actually taking some segment of context back in some conversations you had before, saying it as it, especially the way they read it, depending on like the context of how they actually read it. But
Right.
they're gaslighting. So this is this gaslighting thing is like it's getting your arms around these topics, really, especially watching Witsit Gets It. He's nailing it now, and I'm like actually learning. He's probably the tippy top of the debate crowd in our community. But like understanding the fallacies, understanding the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, understanding what gaslighting is. All they do is they take something that's a trope or something that existed back here before, and then they say it again. Then they already created a platform of doubt before the conversation has even started. It's like, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it. I mean, we're talking about gaslighting at its most ferocious level. And if you start to get your arms around what these fallacies are and the gaslighting that goes on, and like most people don't even understand the concept of gaslighting, even though it was a fucking Hollywood, not a Hollywood, but it was a Broadway production about a guy that was turning the temperature up and down when his wife was sitting on a chair and she couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Is it cold in here?" And he's like, "No, it's not cold in here." That's the original. That's where gaslighting comes from,
Yeah, you're convincing somebody that something's not happening when it clearly is.
Yeah,
That's all in your imagination. It's like
it's not just lying. It's also like you're trying to brainwash.
Yeah, you're trying to mess with somebody. And constantly, we. It's funny. The term is thrown out there a lot, but people gaslight people for pranks all the time.
Yeah,
it's like, you just move something, or you make them believe that something happened, that something happened that they didn't see off camera, and now is the new reality. It's like, did that glass move? Did you move that glass? No, I didn't move that glass.
And then you're questioning yourself. It's like, am I crazy?
Right.
Or are they crazy?
Well,
Me crazy?
that's what I thought with Flat Earth. I'm like, did I just become the most gullible idiot all of a sudden? I used to be so good. I'd be sharply like, that fool's lying. I see that magic trick. He's got that under his sleeve. I know everything. And then I was like, Flat Earth. I'm like, what am I just believing everything now? Like, okay. And
I wish you guys could have been in the theater when we showed when we were doing the film festivals for the movie, because regardless whether you loved or hated the movie, because again, the first 25 minutes, the audience did not believe it was real.
Yeah.
Meaning they thought it was a fake movie. Like Best in Show, like one of those directors guys.
Right. Yeah.
And
it was
then,
like that.
And then collective
story. Yeah.
And then he would do what's called docufiction, where everybody plays it. It's absolutely straight, but it's totally fake. You know who the actors are, and you've seen it before in other things. And in fact, he used the same actors in every movie that he did with this, which made it even worse with this running gag. But after 25 minutes, collectively the audience all of a sudden sat back, and they're going, you could hear them whispering to their friends. It's like, I don't think this is a fake movie, man. There's something happening on the internet that I missed, that's been out there, and it's really big, and I'm worried, and it was hilarious watching that it happened every single time we showed it. And
I think at that time, there's no way a movie broaching that subject could have been better, because at that time there was nobody allowing any more truth on that subject to come out. Like the way that movie came out was kind of perfect. I know a lot of flat earthers are like, oh, they didn't say enough. Like, but in reality, like, just like I'm on your team as far as just any news is good news out there.
Well, I mean, it's true. There's a lot of people that don't believe you can. Here's an example. I talked to many flat earth people, and I said, hardcore flat earth people, I go, okay, so you didn't like the movie? No. What would you have taken out of the movie? Well, I've taken the astronauts out and the scientists and the psychiatrists. And I was like, so you want to turn it into a propaganda movie? And nothing negative against flat Earth at all. It's like, no, nothing negative at all. I go, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, even the way they released it, you got to remember that even when they released it, and the producers and the everyone that was involved in the production of that movie were not into flat Earth, enthusiastically not into flat Earth, to where even when we're there at the film festivals and I watched them, first question always was asking like director point blank. It's like, are you a flat earther? Right. And he said, absolutely not. Right. But you got to remember that they're asking that for one reason only. If he would have said yes, the audience would have turned on him. They would have been like, oh, okay, so you're one of those. And to where, you know this story, Alex, when I was doing the Toronto Film Festival with Patricia and the director, he goes, oh yeah, by the way, so Patricia and I we're in the audience. It's like, yeah, we're gonna announce, by the way, that you two are in the audience after the show. I'm going, that's a terrible idea. That's really bad. You do not want to do that. He's going, oh, it'll be fine. And I'm going, you don't want to do it. And sure enough, when he goes, just, about 5-10 minutes into the little quick Q&A thing, he goes, oh yeah, and Mark and Patricia are, I wish you guys could have been there to see it. You could hear all the necks turning simultaneously. It's like, it's like there are flat earthers in here with us right now. And somebody yells from the distance. He goes, get a mic. And so somebody walks over a mic to us. And as soon as we had the microphone, no one on that stage, the director and the editor, or the producer, they were not even part of it anymore. To where eventually I could see them getting frustrated, and they just had to cancel the whole rest of the thing because people just had questions for us. They just mobbed us afterwards. It's like, I have questions. It's like, okay.
Yeah, then you did wonderful. You did exactly like that's how good. Yeah, that's a good thing. You want them to have questions, so it was a success.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a lynch mob. It was like, I don't want to have questions.
It didn't matter that Jaron was thrown under the bus at the end because
that's interesting.
Because the average audience member didn't know what the hell they were looking at anyway. I asked him, I go, so how do you think the movie ended? It's like, well, something bad and funny happened. I go, do you understand it? I go, no, but it was funny, right? I go, you don't even know what the experiment was. It's like, no, man. I go, by that point, because they blew it because the movie had already saturated and hit them with so many things. By the time they got to the Jaron part, they were just like, what?
Yeah.
They were all
like,
it needed to end with, no, it's not flat. Like, it needed to end like that. It wasn't ready to be like, that's the conclusion, is flat. It would have been, like, we were trying, like, the people that were watching it, you were luring them in. It needed, you're right.
But the average person does not know you remember the producers had already figured out what experiments needed to be done and what they wanted to show. But the average, again, kind of like the audience, they're showing it to people cold. And it's like, I suppose you had 100 minutes to warm them up, but that isn't enough. I mean, at that point, you're sending them all over the place and they're talking, they're looking at people. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah, dude. And honestly, like the zinger at the end had, in my mind, probably it was over the head of everyone already because they'd already ingested so much information about something they've never even thought about. You know, so like he throws the zinger in at the end because he wants to do his little attack on flat Earth. I don't think it had much effect.
No, it didn't.
I thought the movie was exactly what it needed to be. And you know what? Maybe he just inevitably did something he didn't want to do, but he did it anyway. And it's like it was well received.
Yeah. I mean, I knew when. I knew what happened again, and the only reason they edited it that way, it was supposed to be a generic fluff piece, human interest piece. They attacked it. They attacked us because of the kids that were at the conference in Raleigh. But I knew we had something when I was reading. Somebody sent me a periodical, and they said movies to watch this summer, and it's like Lady Gaga in A Star Is Born, and Behind the Curve. It's like they were like side by side. It's like, sweet.
Yeah.
And I would send these to the producers because they had no faith in the project at all. They absolutely thought it was just going to tank. And it was like, no. And they were they hated us so much. The sequel was not even considered. They were like barely hanging on to sanity with us. They kept this poker face where they never
if any studio producer, like had any idea of like what the data is and like what's actually going on out there on the ground in real, they should be making a flat Earth film. I mean, it's so. I mean,
They
because
should.
we're all a band together, and like if it's done with like honesty and it's done awesome, they're guaranteed their nickels.
Yeah,
And
anybody
it's
could
like
have
I
done.
can't
And
believe they wouldn't do it.
yeah, and the first movie was shot on just shoestrings. I mean, credit cards were maxed out to get that movie done. I mean, I remember when the film team was down in Raleigh, and they were like the lead, the director and the lead camera guy were sharing a room, and it was, have you ever seen this, where the room is just packed to the freaking rafters with camera gear and lighting and all this stuff because of all the stuff they had to potentially shoot, and the production value, they couldn't have asked for anything more, because then all the media descended that next day, and it was just awesome. Just awesome.
Man, those were the good old days, right?
Yeah.
Like what's
So
going
how
on
did
now?
you
Like
get-
where
how
are
did
we
you
now?
just have so much? Where did you get these balls to just like confidently just be like, I'm a flat earther, like before you really had like the support of our species? Like, I mean, like that's insane to me.
Dude, he
No,
lives
no,
on
no,
an
no.
island.
I
He
had-
lives on an island. He's protected. He's got water around him. He can say what he wants. Nobody can get out there unless they take
I'm on
the
an
ferry.
island. What are you gonna
It
do?
doesn't even seem to phase you. Like
No.
you're not
It's-
even
it's-
like nervous or scared. You're just like, I don't know.
I
It's
was a
flat.
little nervous in the beginning, but it was kind of like I wasn't going to make the videos until I had all the answers, all the potential answers to all the potential questions in my head.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like if you've ever taken like a blue book test or any sort of test during school where I was 99% sure I aced it. Meaning I knew all the material, and I was like, yeah, if somebody asked me this, I answer like this, and I answer like this, and which also was convincing me in the process, because I was a globalist when the whole thing started. And then there was this
global
nervous.
leader, not globalist. I just wanted to point.
Well, you know what I mean. I know I liked the whole globe concept before I got into this.
Cut that up.
No, it's fine. And next up, world domination. So what happened was, when I put the clues out, I had that nervous moment that was very much like university, where I was pretty sure I got everything that I need to get done, but it was still lingering in my head. It's like, did I miss something?
Yeah.
So, but after the first 6 months, the confidence you're talking about, no, it was not really there. In my voice, you probably didn't hear it, but when I was at home, I was going, oh man, what did I do? To where I had to call up my mom, from Colorado, and I said, so you might hear some things from people eventually. And again, real quick, the documentary, there was this one moment where, because I didn't have any faith in the movie either, right? Where we shot this little scene in front of my sister's house. My sister was at one of Tom Petty's last concerts before he passed away, and she wasn't there, and we didn't tell her, right? So it's just like, and my mom's like, should we tell her that we were here? It's like, she probably wouldn't give him permission anyway. I go, plus this movie's not ever no one's ever gonna see the light of day with this thing. Next thing you know, if the worst possible thing could have happened, which was like my sister's friends watched the movie on Netflix and then called my sister up. It's like, oh, your house looks so cute in this. And my sister's like, the what? Oh my God. She was so angry and so drunk. Oh my God.
Well, that's another thing. It's like to consider, like once you become public about these topics, you wonder like, oh, are people around me going to have to suffer through this? Like,
Right.
Like I was, some of the people, like, I mean, like Alex understands, like, I was in a band for a while, and when I started going down the rabbit hole, I'm like, I don't know if I can like be in both here, because I don't know how to, and you start thinking like, well, do I stay true to myself and be public or ruin people's, but I don't want to ruin like relationships, especially business ones, like,
as long as you can. Well, yeah, I mean, like Shaq, for example, he had to pull back after 10 days because his sponsors were not thrilled with him. But Kyrie's didn't care. All they care about is a winner, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with Novak Djokovic, who quietly, didn't, got himself thrown out of the Australian Open and then became the number one tennis player in the world again because he stuck to his guns.
Yeah.
But no, as long as for me, as long as you, the confidence came from not anything weird. It was just, I had the answers to the questions which felt good to me. So it's like, okay, if somebody asked me about this, somebody asked me about this. It's like, okay, how would I answer that? And I had to go pain. It was that part was somewhat painful because I had to wrestle with it myself. It's like, okay, how does it? Because as you know, when a person hears this for the first time, they always respond with, "How does this work?" Or does how do you deal with this? One of those two things. It's always these series of questions. Sunsets, meteorites, the tides, it just goes on and on and on. And then imagine, until they're satisfied with the answers to those questions. I had to answer all those to myself. I had this inner narrative.
How many days did you spend with flight routes on the computer? Like how many days just
watching? Not that long. I only spent a couple weeks on that one.
Yeah, just
did you just pull up a page?
Yeah, well, no, a couple weeks to where I missed the quantas. There were 4 nonstops, something like that. 4 nonstops in the entire southern hemisphere.
Yeah, QF28, I think it is. Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's like people. If I had to hear the name frickin' Qantas one more time, but the thing is, but
the girl in the movie was like, but what about this little thing right here?
Yeah.
See that?
The girl with the purple hair. Yeah.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah, they made an animated
this
little
dealy.
Oh yeah, it was.
Give it an hour. Let's see where that goes.
But the thing was, there was so much that the director left out because he knew how much ammunition we had. Which was, it's like the part that bugged me was the people that would send me like 1 flight or 2 flights in the entire southern hemisphere, and I going, so it doesn't bother you that 98% of all flights in the southern hemisphere have double connections and take 2 days? That doesn't bother you, but you're gonna pick these two.
They say they said the globe. I'm like, it's all CGI. But like, what about this Blue Marble 72? There's one. It doesn't bother you. Like, what?
Yeah. I mean, I brought it up. Well, I'll give you another example. Like when I was doing, I was talking to Terry, of course, Terry Virts, the astronaut, American astronaut, when I had him on this British television show, and I was coming in remote. And I mentioned, I said, look, I go, the first Blue Marble shot was taken in 1972. The second Blue Marble shot was not taken until 2015. And they just stare at me, and I'm going, you realize what that means, right? In space terms, the aerospace industry, that's forever. I go, and no one talks about this. 43 years, no one released a Blue Marble shot. That's ridiculous. That's 2 generations of people, at least.
Those are the best clues in my mind. It's just those are the kind of things, not like the evidence, but the lack of evidence.
The flight thing, by the way, that was not me. That was a tip off by a guy in Britain who sent it to me. It wasn't he was like a deep throat. He was one of ours who ended up being a troublemaker later. He always picked fights with people. I don't know if he was Irish or whatever, but he said, it's like, look into long haul flights.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Long haul. He goes, that's what you want to look into. And he was right. Where when you looked at long haul flights, it was really freaky to watch. Of course, they've corrected some of it in the software now, where you'd see a plane, going over the water. I've never seen that before. And going over the water, and then I turn around to get a glass of juice or something. I come back, that plane's gone.
Right.
Like, what the hell happened to it?
Yeah.
Right. And then it came back. Hours and hours and hours later, it came back. And then some people said, "Oh, you should watch the flight thing. Only it's for ships." I was going, "That's like watching paint dry." That's
I know. If I'd known it was going to take 6 months, like prove it wrong, like I'm like, oh god, I was supposed to just knock this out. I'm like going insane, and like the flight thing, like I remember like the logs, like they would have logs from yesterday, and I'm like, oh, go check it out, and for those flights, and it was just 8 hours missing of GPS. Like, that's not a concern to anybody.
Yeah. And but they've covered it up very, very well. Again, the flights, the Malaysian flights, the 777s that went down the Indian Ocean, where people are like, I'm like, those are flagships. That's state of the art, and you can't find them, and no one wants to talk about it.
I love how they're like frantically finding information, like finding proof now that's fake, like 24-hour sun, for example. They're like, oh, there's one right here. It's like, when? It was made like just because of flat earth. Like why weren't they there before? Like they're just making it.
The part that bugged me the most about watching the media in action, there are 2 things that just pissed me off so much. One was, of course, National Geographic when we were doing the balloon test over the Salton Sea, and the balloons were on the beach at 9 miles. And their camera guys couldn't. They're like, okay, where are we aiming exactly? Over there, because the desert all looks the same. And we're going, you're aiming right there where the balloons are. It's like, what are you talking about? You can't see the balloons. It's like, sure we can. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we had them in
Yeah,
our
the
P900s.
We can see the balloons.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the point. You can't see them on the beach. I'm going, we can see them on the beach right now. That's the test, dude.
Yeah.
And that's when, of course, they sent that footage to New York, and it wasn't going to get sent. But
Yeah,
the
they're
part
like, yeah,
that,
but they see them. We can see
yeah,
them.
we
What
can
do
see them,
see?
and on the beach, you don't have to raise them. The whole point was they were going to raise them up until they saw them. It's like when you talk about raise them up, we can see the guys on the beach holding them right now. At
Oh my
ground
god,
level.
my favorite one was like when you were down there with National Geographic. This might be the same one where they had the guy on the boat with the stripes in the water, and it's like, look, it's definitely, you can see it's disappearing below, and there's a horizon, then there's a water line clearly above those stripes. And they also shortened one of the strips on the sign. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys.
Oh
are
yeah,
dirty,
that was their
dirty.
backup test, and they didn't show any distances. They just talked as fast as they could and said, "Oh no, the stripes are disappearing." Blah blah blah. Roll credits, and we're out of here. The other part that bugged me was when we were at the Houston Space Center, Patricia and I, and if you know anything about the Houston Space Center, outside they've got a full blown 747 hollowed out with a space shuttle on top, also hollowed out. Because they used to transport the space shuttle to into different places on the back of a 747. And which they didn't have to, because it turns out it's powered, but we don't want to talk about that. You can look up all day long people that made little models of the space shuttle. It's like, it's absolutely aerodynamic.
Did that place feel like a carnival ride, like going in there? Because
it was
Disneyland?
like old New Jersey amusement park going in there. It was like worn down. But what was weird was when we were in the space shuttle, there was the shot from oh crap, what was his name? Robert Simmons, right? The Robert Simmons blue marble shot from the phone. For again, the people that don't know, when Apple, much like Al Gore was looking for a shot right back in the day, and I was looking for a shot back in the day, Apple was also looking for a shot when they built their very first phone, because the very first background for the phone was a globe, right? But they didn't want to use the Apollo 17 shot, so they had to make one. And so they called up a NASA guy, and it's like, hey, can you send one of your software guys who knows Photoshop and have him whip one up? And so he whips up this thing called the Robert Simmons, the first Apple shot, and it's Photoshop to hell, right? He was not shy about talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, absolutely. The famous quote, "It is Photoshop because it has to be." Meaning there was no images for him to go off of, so he just made a globe and put the continents in and put some weather in and like was clone tooling the clouds and this. And anyway, the point was we all knew it was fake. We've been known it was fake for a long time, but here we were inside this space shuttle outside the Houston Space Center. What do you think's on the wall right there? Robert Simmons' image. Why? Because it was a NASA engineer who made it. Therefore, they own the rights to it. And there's no caption, there's no date, it's just there, right? Wow. And I'm sitting there with the film team, right? And I'm going, look, here it is, right? I go, here's what I'm talking about. I go, this is an absolutely manufactured Earth image right here, and it's been here for a number of years, obviously. And here's the cloning tool in the Southern Hemisphere. What was weird was it was almost like he had to finish it on a Friday, and like had to go to pick up wings and beer, like a happy hour thing, because he was in a hurry, and he's just like clone.
Yeah, we'll just copy paste these over here.
Copy paste.
Happy hour to get you.
Well, I'm out of here. It's like sweet 2-for-1 margaritas, and because that's what it looked like. It was the cloning tool.
Photoshop because I got to get to fucking happy hour. That's
no one noticed it because the cloning tool was in the Southern Hemisphere. Who's looking in the Southern Hemisphere? We certainly are not in the Americans. So anyway, the point was I showed this to him. I explained it to him. Patricia's right there nodding her head, and they wanted no part of it. They didn't even, it wasn't even like, oh, let's shoot this and then we'll just blow it off later. They didn't even want to talk about it. So
yeah. No, yeah. It was like talking to like the warden in Shawshank. It's like, what? Wait, why are you being so obtuse? Like this is
there you go. There you go. They really that did not fit their narrative, and there were so many experiments that we did that they didn't want to talk about.
Those days seem like they're over. Like I remember for a while it was all about experiments. So
we've got so many in the bank now.
Yeah, now it's like it's ridiculous because in all like honesty, like if you're gonna like say like the Earth is flat, I'm not even a flat earther, but like it becomes flat.
Right.
When, by default. So when you find out that it's not a ball, Like, I'm not like, oh, I'm a flat earther because I'm obsessed with the shape. No, it's just that's what my perception showed me from to start. I was told it's a ball. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I found out that's a lie. It goes back to being flat. And so that's like why all these extra necessary arguments. It seems strange to me because if you just presuppose, okay, let's start from scratch. What do we see? Is it moving? No, we all can agree that. Okay, what do we
Right.
see? Is it flat? That's what it is. Okay, we're gonna start there. That's what it is.
And it's a smart
until
place
you
to
can prove
start. I mean,
different.
like the
And
truth,
that's where
whatever you call the truth, but like what we consider the truth is as we discern it. Never, you don't ever have to go back and change your story. You don't have to remember what you said in order to remedy your lie. It's just like this is
Right.
what I got, and it hasn't changed for me, and I'm comfortable sitting in this very still. And here's the other thing, that like we're gonna go to a break here, but like the most beautiful thing about flat Earth to me, and I think Mark, you understand this too, is we're not spinning. And once your consciousness isn't spinning and you're not in this tizzy, you're not able to, or you're not manipulated by the powers that be, the beast system anymore. You know,
Right.
they want you spinning so that they can manipulate you and make you do things that you would normally do if you were just walking plainly on a stationary plane.
Yep.
well, you also shouldn't have to prove that you are not spinning. Like it's like saying
Yeah,
prove
It's
like
obvious.
prove this lamp is not purple. Like it's just such a strange way to like let's just start over. Like it to me it looks flat. Like if the sky is blue, but if someone told me as a kid, well, actually, technically, it's green, but there's this weird chemical in the air, and so it's an illusion. And then I'd walk around for 20 years being like, well, yeah, the sky, stupid people think it's blue, but I know it's green because public education told me about this little
Right.
blah, 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 blah. And then if I find out that's bullshit, it becomes blue, and that's it. Like I
True.
go back to being blue, you know? And it's just so strange that I have to like prove it's not purple. You know, it no, you prove it's purple. You know, like it's such a mind. It's like I'd like to say that like, oh, okay, I'm getting through my life. You know, like halfway through my life, I find out the world is flat, and I want to say like, is this generational? Like, no, this is a weird thing for any human being to have to go through. Halfway through my life, I'm like, it's this, and oh no, it's all a lie. Like it's not like my dad's gonna be like, "Oh, I remember when I was 37. Like when I learned that the world was flat. You'll get through it, son. It's very normal." No, this is weird for humanity to just halfway through be like, "What?" Like, and we're all just kind of figuring it out. And like, I think because of you, like where it went really good. I think you.
Well, thanks.
This is gonna sound a little like I'm like maybe praising a little too much, but I think it's very warranted. You are a modern day prophet. And I mean it. No,
Just
I mean
suck
if you
his
really
cock
think
a little
about
bit more.
No, hold on a second. I mean this though. Like you guys are like in a weird way, and because you're so humble and because you laugh at it, that makes it more proof to me. Like,
Well, it was
No,
the
Mark.
cry for help more than anything.
Mark, you're
It was-
appreciated. You're
Well,
appreciated.
thank you.
in the
No.
community,
I
for
and
sure.
thank you. I mean,
No,
it's
yeah,
not,
no,
it's not what I
thank
set
you
out
very
to
much.
do, but I will. I am enjoying the fact that so many people have changed their paradigm because of it.
Crumb, let's play a
well,
tune, and then
at the end of the day, like it is a better one. It just takes it took like a year for me to realize I'm glad I went through this, But at first, it was like I don't want this, And we all went through that. What do you want to play?
let's just play a song, whatever. We'll do a 5-minute break, and we'll do a quick send off after this.
Oh, wait, play a song. I can play the
play a song. Play the
globe tune.
play
Play a little
anything.
problem with the globe background
Sure,
music.
whatever. Yeah, dude. Problem with the globe.
You want to
I
sing
don't care.
on top of it? I'm just gonna
Not
play
really.
the.
No, I'm talking about like you're playing a song so I can take a break and get up
Playing
from the
it,
seat
playing?
for a second.
Oh, you want me to
like,
actually do some
Yeah,
work?
play the
instead of
liar
getting it
song, or
played
play
by-
I can't produce you on air and also on the keyboard. So like to
No. Want to hear like
you can play fucking Thriller for all I care. I don't know. I have to pee.
Yeah, go pee. Go pee. Go take a 5-minute. Y'all. I'll take over. Bum, 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 bum. All right, I'm just gonna jam on this. You guys know what song this is? It's pretty obvious.
Billie Jean.
Isn't that crazy? It's just one drum beat, but it's so obvious what it is. It's just
When it's the number one song for an entire year.
no, I know, but there's only one way to play that. It's like you
Right.
can play it's a simple beat.
And the
But,
number one
it's so
album, I
crazy.
think, still in history.
Thriller.
Yeah. You know what the
Yeah.
number 2 album was for the longest time was a lot of people don't know that it's Jagged Little Pill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But
But that was again, remember that was at the end just before people could steal music.
Yeah, that was. That's right. That was like right
the
when,
end
like,
of. I'm sure there would have
before
been.
Metallica had a problem with all.
Yeah, before.
You set up. I can't see it. There you go.
Yeah, I'm set up. I can't hear you playing anyway, so.
You can't hear it?
Kind of, but.
Let's turn it up.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
no idea what you're playing.
No, I can't hear you either. Get us back.
We've tried this a million times, and we still have so much lag that half the time it sounds like we're playing on a different page.
lag-
There's a way to do it, but yeah, we always to us it sounds good. Then I go back, I'm like, oh.
Then we go back and listen to it, and I'm like, dude, we should never do that again.
That's like when all the viewers like numbers go.
I know. And everyone's leaving now. We've actually tried to find like spots on the internet where we can actually get the lag down to almost zero.
No, there's a way to do it. You gotta hop on the same IP address and all this stuff, and do like port forwarding from my internet router and all this. No,
Yeah.
really.
Well, let's give a good send off to Mark. You've been
Yeah,
amazing
I think
tonight,
the
brother.
2 hour
Thanks
stream
for
is
taking.
perfect.
Thanks for taking the time
Mark,
with us.
this was so cool. This was a lot
Thank
of
you,
fun.
thank you guys.
Yeah.
No, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Don't be a stranger. You know, we try to do this once a week. Sometimes it's just Chrome, sometimes both of us, but
Yeah, no. If there's ever anything you want to talk about, just let me know. Give me a little heads up, and I'll jump in and chat.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, no, thank you for everything you've done. And still this day, Flat Earth Clues #1 from 2015 is if somebody wants a video, I send them that. Like I haven't found. I mean, there are obviously a lot of good ones, but to me, what
That
I
was a
found the
big one
most
for me.
effective is yours.
Well, thanks.
I think that's
When people ask me, I try not to send them my own stuff, so I have a playlist on my channel called the a Flat Earth Short List for New People. And
Okay.
it's a collection of a whole bunch of different people. Everybody from Marty Leeds to Rob Skiba to David Weiss to Jaron to me to. I've got a couple in there, but not many.
Yeah, no, yeah, like some of them, like you were a stepping stone, like I said, but like, rubbed me the wrong way.
Let me end with this. There was I joke with people, but I've seen it too many times now, where if you ever made it through university, and I didn't, I was thrown out for manufacturing explosives, but that's a whole nother story for another time. Which is when you run into kids, you always get these weird discussions that happen at schools everywhere, which is, the third year kids will ask the freshmen to be like, so who are you reading now? Right? Who are you into now? And the freshmen will be like, oh, I'm into such and such. And the third year students will be like, oh, yeah, I was into him for a while. Yeah, I remember that, but now I'm into this guy. I am always that first year student thing. It's like, when I run into people that have been to Flat Earth for like more than 5 years, it's like, dude, I was so into your stuff. Oh no, now I'm into these people over here, but I was so into your stuff. So it's like, that's how much time has passed. But I don't mind.
No,
you're the perfect freshman
I honestly
recruiter.
can't imagine.
Yeah, freshman
where it would have
recruiter.
gone. Yeah. All right. Wait, what time is it? So you said play the Liar song. I can't on this station, dude.
Oh, you'll get a check.
Maybe I can. I don't know. I mean, I did 3 months. Or I did a month of.
It's probably going to give you a
writing
check
it.
mark, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I want to keep. I
don't worry about
want this to stay up. But I will play something out. Did you want to say anything, Alex?
No,
Or
I'm
Are
good.
there any
I'm good.
questions?
That was
I
enough
should
guitar for
address
me
in the
tonight.
chat?
A few notes, and that was enough.
I'm just trying to see if there's any.
Fulfills
Doesn't
my
look like there's a lot
daily.
of questions. It looks like.
No.
What up?
Save them for next time. We'll do it.
Yeah. All right. Oh yeah. Is there
Nobody's
anything you want
going
me to
anywhere
say to our audience here? Strange.
Oh
World
yeah.
on
No,
Tuesday?
if you want to find anything that I do, don't worry. I mean, just type in. I don't know who did it first. If it was Dave or me. I think it was me, because the search engines are just screwed up. Type in Flat Earth Mark into any
Flat Earth
search
Mark.
engine, whatever you use. I don't care where you are, if it's YouTube, it's Google, if it's Firefox, if it's Dogpile, if Dogpile's still a thing. Any of that stuff, just type in Flat Earth Mark. It will lead you down the rabbit holes, and eventually you'll get to where you need to go. That's it.
All right.
Well, we appreciate having you, buddy.
Yeah, I really
Happy to
appreciate
be
it.
here. And,
Yeah, it was
and
really
seriously,
cool.
that is one of the greatest green screens ever. I mean, that piano looks so real.
I stole
Absolutely.
this from look. This scene is all from Twin Peaks, and I've been looking for I've been looking for like a view from a piano like this forever. And it was hard to find. So I was watching Twin Peaks, the new one, season 8. And it zooms in on this guy playing piano, and I just literally screenshotted it and then took it out.
Wait,
and I'm like,
that's not real. You just have a piano behind it.
There's
have a
nothing
keyboard
here
behind
real.
Nothing
Yeah,
there is
I do
real,
have a
Mark. He's in his
keyboard under here.
garage.
But I have,
Oh, is he?
yeah. Here's my keyboard.
Oh wow, there it is. Awesome. How'd you pull that into frame? What'd you cover that with?
So I'm using the same webcam, and I just cropped the part of it that you don't see that is this, and I just have that come up like whenever I want.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? Yeah. I also, if anybody wanted to support, you can go to here. Got these little chats there, and then and yeah. So
That's neat.
I've been doing this for a while. Just I like to have OBS fun and
Very cool.
I'm a performer, so this is like how I present truth, but it's not how I not how I expect it to
Hey, it's
start.
still better than what NASA did this last week.
I know. I want to show people how easy this is. All right, Mark, you're the man. Thanks
guys.
for being here, and yeah. All right, folks. Here we go.
Follow from. Follow from. Follow from. Follow from. Follow from.